Well, welcome to the Vertex Podcast. How are you feeling today?
Thank you. I'm feeling good. Just a little bit nervous.
All good, all good. Um, man, I just want to thank you for being here with us today. I read The Call of Wind back in December, and it is something that has it was such a fun, surprisingly deep fantasy story.
Okay.
And I mean, because it just hit on so many important topics. It could have been very easy to just write about, kids doing like going on an adventure with elemental powers. That stuff works. But I feel like there were so many subtle messages in this book and themes that they got played very nicely, where it's not like you're trying to hit us over the head with them, but it's very much there if you're kind of sensitive to those types of things. So um I knew that after I finished reading that I had to invite you to the show and just talk about it further. But before I get into that, I would like to know what is something that we should know about you or maybe about your upbringing that would help us better understand, you as an author and to better receive this book.
Well, I guess before I answer that, I want to say thank you for having me on here. You were like the email I got from you was so nice, and the fact that you reached out to me because you liked the book and you'd read it, I was like, oh my gosh. And then I saw your podcast and I was like, oh, this guy is a serious artist. Like he knows all these people and he's interviewing these people who worked at Cartoon Network and all these other places. And I was like, whoa. So I'm very happy to be here. And I like your podcast. It's good. I love podcasts like this where it's like, okay, let's talk about the process of creative stuff and all types of art and things like that. So I'm very happy to be here.
Oh man, thank you. Thank you
Um,
so much.
yeah, you're a good interview. I'm like, yeah, I think you do a good job. And they just feel like conversations. So, but I guess
Mhm.
uh to get to your point of like, okay, who am I? What is my background? So I guess probably the most important thing about me, I think, is that I am a Christian. Um, I I think it's interesting with my book that religion is a very heavy theme of it, and the religion isn't always portrayed in a positive light. So I've had people comment being like, "Oh, this reminds me of why I left religion and things like that." And I'm glad people are able to resonate with those themes. But I'm someone who's like, no idea is too sacred or precious to explore in fiction, or you know, I some I also was homeschooled, so I was around a lot of very conservative Christian people. And there's sometimes this idea, if you're in a religion, right, probably regardless of the religion, any type of ideology, that oh, we shouldn't question, or oh, if anything that portrays it in a negative light might be bad. And I just don't agree with that. So I like being able to explore these things in fiction. So I guess that's one thing about who I am. Another thing about who I am is I'm mixed. So my mom is African American and my dad is half white and half Cuban, which is like Cuban's weird. I don't know. It's not really a race. I guess it's more of a nationality. But um, so I like here also books that explore themes of okay, being between multiple cultures. Like let's explore the differences between cultures and how people view the world. Just because I think that's really interesting, and it's something I thought a lot about growing up. So I think those are the two biggest, if you're talking about terms of identity things. I just am a big reader, I guess. I love reading. I love all kinds of storytelling and art. I like to draw for fun. I'm not a pro, but I do it for fun. So I love art and animation and things like that. I watch a ton of anime. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I think that's, I guess, how I would introduce myself on a broad level.
Oh man, it gives so many. I had all these questions about the characters and the story, and I know that creatives we put ourselves in our work all the time, and just based off of the the characters and their situation, it was it had me so curious about your situation because of the way that these characters are. I'm you wouldn't really write about your characters being this type of way unless you've had this type of experience. You could write about anybody's perspective, but it's a different level of depth and clarity to a perspective, like whenever it's something that you can relate to personally. um and oh man, there's just ways that like I also like I can relate to a bunch of the characteristics that you have as well. But what started your like creative journey then?
I was always a huge reader. Like my mom says that like um she would read to me all the time, and she said like before she even like I was like okay, cuz like I said she homeschooled us. Before she taught me specifically how to read, I had like kind of figured it out on my own on like
Mhm.
a really young age, just because how immersed like books were such a big part of our lives. She was reading to us all the time. And so I really fell in love with reading and stories like since before I can remember. Like I don't remember the first time I decided that I loved reading. I just always have. Um and I think because I loved it so much and because I loved books so much, I was like, clearly the most important thing any person could do would be to write a book, which is not the viewpoint I have now, but it's still like something that is like so important to me to do. And I think I've always felt like compelled to like, okay, I have to figure out how to do this. And like, I remember being a kid and reading these books. I love C.S. Lewis. His writing style is one of my favorite writing styles of all time. And I remember just reading them and like almost like being in agony that I didn't think I could ever craft a sentence as beautiful as these ones that he was crafting. So like I don't know, I just am. It's just kind of part of who I am. People
Mm,
put a lot of like emphasis on like this idea of a calling. Um, and that's kind of how I feel about writing. Like I kind of
mm,
just feel like it's what I have to do, and I don't know why, but it's just how I feel.
mm.
It's a little like it feels like main character syndrome to say, but I don't
No.
know. How do you feel like that way as an artist? Like, were you always drawing?
Yeah, I've been drawing since before I could write, and it's something where like it was just my way of being able to connect with something that like I otherwise couldn't. So like if I'm watching a show, back then it's just cable, so it's not like you could just watch any show at any time. Like no, SpongeBob comes on at 6, it's over at 7 until tomorrow. And if it's 9 o'clock and I'm still thinking about SpongeBob, how do I connect with him? And for me, that was just like drawing him and drawing, Bikini Bottom or whatever. And I just had that same feel with everything. It was like a way of connecting to the things that I wanted to connect with. And I don't know, I thought it was so cool that you could have a blank page and then, with some lines, maybe some color, you create a thing. Like you just have something that did not exist before. And I've never been able to shake that. Like that's just been so powerful.
Yeah, I sometimes have a hard time understanding not having that creative drive. My husband is very like he's an engineer and he's very much an engineer analytical type of person, which I love about him. But like it's fun to talk about things with him because he has this maybe this desire to like understand how things work, probably to a greater extent than I do. But he's not like, oh, I have to make something unless it's food. He loves to cook, but
Mhm.
that's it.
I mean, it's so real though. Like I think my uncle is like that kind of influence for me. He was always trying to like categorize things because I guess it's not really to like to talk down on me or anything, but it was so that his brain could make it make sense. He always had to like, okay, that's this type of thing and that's that type of thing, and so my whole life he's been like, oh you're this type of artist now, or oh you're into this, or you're one of those types of creatives, and I'm like. I don't know. I'm just doing my own thing. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, it's just all yeah, it's interesting. I love to learn how different people's minds work. That's one of the things in book 2 of my series I'm have introduced some different perspectives, and I'm really enjoying writing them because I want to be able to write people who are extremely different from me. I
Mhm,
definitely think I come through a little bit more in the two brothers in different ways. Um, but now I'm like, that's one of the things I want to like as I grow as a writer to master. Like, okay, how do you get into that mindset of someone who is not like you?
and I mean, I'm sure that's a good lesson on like empathy, or sympathy. I'm not sure which one is which, but one of those, like being
I
able to
think it's
understand
empathy.
people's,
Yeah.
yeah, being able to understand people's perspectives a little bit better. Especially like because you have to write about them. You have to like travel through a world with that mindset. So like you're literally walking in other people's shoes. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
And
it's
then
fun.
you had the early dream of wanting to write a book. You were very engrossed with books growing up and stories and reading. But when did you actually start putting like pen to paper? Like what were the things that you would write at first?
I think so. There were things that I wrote very like little forays into storytelling, I would say, as like a young kid. So I have three younger brothers, and I would make up stories with them. We would make up movies, and of course, I was the writer and the director, right, as the oldest sibling. Um, and I think eventually, well, at first, right, I loved books, and I was like, I want to be an editor. And I wanted to be an editor for a publishing house because I was like, I think I want to just read books all the time. And my mom was like, that's what editors do. And I was like, okay, cool, that's what I'll do. Um, I don't remember how old I was. At some point, probably early middle school, maybe late elementary school, I decided I wanted to write a picture book because, like I said, I had these stories that I would write with my brothers that were fun. I think it was probably middle school because I also got a laptop that my dad had gotten like off of eBay. He was very much a computer guy, very into technology. So I had a laptop before most of my friends did. Um, and I had Microsoft Word, and there's
Mm.
all the different fonts you can do. And so I had a story that was about it was a fairy tale, and but as the narrator's telling the story, all the characters are saying that they don't like the parts that they have. So, and each of the characters had a different font and a different color because I was like 12 with the Microsoft Word.
Mm.
And so like he introduces the Brave Knight, and the Brave Knight's like, well, hold on, whoa, I don't want to be that. That sounds scary. I don't want to do that. And then he talks about the princess, and the princess is like, I don't want to get captured. That's like, I'd rather go do this. And also all the characters like swap roles. Um, and then when I was in high school, I was like, okay, I got to write a book. I read like an actual novel. I read Aragon, and apparently he was
Mm.
like 17 or something when he wrote it, and I was like 13 or 14 when I read Aragon, and I was like, well, if this guy can do it, like I got to get on it. Like I don't only have so many years. I can't let this Aragon guy beat me. Like
Right. You
I
gotta
got to.
get to
I
it.
yeah. And I read the book not when it came out because I think I was talking about this with one of my friends where I was like, oh, Christopher Paolini is actually like a good bit older than me, but I was like, I can do this. And so I had several stories that I started, and I would get like 10 to 20 pages in, and then I would stop. And then because I would get stuck. And there's this whole thing with writing. People talk about outliners versus discovery writers, or plotters versus pantsers. And I didn't outline anything. I was just like, I'm just going to sit down and write because I know how stories work. And I would always get stuck. And I always found myself hating what I was writing. Um, and another thing about me is that, like, when I was in middle school, basically as a kid, right, from all through up until like I went to college, basically, I was very nervous around people, issues making friends. I got bullied a little bit. And so like every time I would sit down to write, I found myself like thinking of like, okay, this is like cringe. This is bad. This is like
Mm.
this is weird, right? I was the weird girl, and this is weird. Um, and then when I was in college, I still kind of worked on writing a little bit. But I was really into school. I was really into like making A's and all this stuff. Not surprising, I feel like. Uh and then I got the job, I got married, and I had still never finished a book. And I was like, in like 2022, I think I was like, how can I not written a book yet? And in 2022, see, it's 2020, I was like 24, and I was like, I thought I would have published a book by 18. How am I 24 and I still haven't even finished one? Which is
Mm.
not a bad timeline. It's just not the timeline that I had expected. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to write a book. I listen to all these podcasts. Some of these people write a whole book in a month. So
Mm.
I took a month. I like didn't do any other things socially, and I just like was like, I'm gonna finish this book. And that book became The Call of Wind. Though The Call of Wind has I compared the documents in Word, it has like 1% in common with that draft I wrote in that 1 month. Because I didn't have a strong plan. I got to the end and it just sort of stopped, and I was like, well, I don't know what they do now. And it was originally supposed to be one book, and I was like, well, I can't end it here because like this is super unsatisfying. And like Mark, who is a main character in The Call of Wind, didn't exist. It was just Elias. And the book was just it was really bad. But I think the fact that I sat down and like forced myself to finish it in a month helped me like get over a lot of that writer's block and that insecurity that I'd built up.
Mhm.
And then I was like, I'm going to publish it. And so, we can talk about the
Mm.
publishing process as well. I've been talking a long time, but like that's kind of how it went from like, okay, loving stories to wanting to make them to like getting stuck to like, okay, now I'm doing it.
Mm. Mm. Man, there's like this theme that I saw where you're like you you wrote it out and then you're like you get all the way to the end and it's like, oh, this is unsatisfying. This, one of the other main characters isn't there, and you're like, but I have something. I have something here. And what's so cool about that part is that like there's this whole feel of like make the thing, you can make it better later. And I think
Mhm.
that that's so important that you decided to just make something just for you, like because this was something that you wanted to do. This is something that it was a dream of yours for forever, basically. And then you do it, and you're like, dang, I don't like this. This isn't the thing. This is not gonna be the thing that I put out to the world.
Mhm.
And I think that it's well, for one, I'm curious to know how did it feel like for you to be like, yeah, I finally wrote the book, like I did the thing that I always wanted to do, and it did not meet your expectations.
I definitely mixed feelings because as I was writing it, I there were moments where I was like, this isn't very good. And, at this point, I hadn't been focusing on creative writing in a while. Like I spent a lot of time creative writing as a kid and stuff, but kind of through college in my first couple years working, I didn't. And college, I majored in English, so it's very academic writing, right? And then my job was I worked for an educational publishing company, and so also very like technical, boring writing style, right? Because that's the type of stuff that you want for educational materials, for whatever reason. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. I was like, could it be fun? And they were like, no, it can't.
Right. Not for the kids.
Yeah,
No, no fun for
not for
kids.
the kids. No, no, it can't be fun. So when I started sitting down to like actually try to force this story out, I was like, why is this so much harder than it used to be? I was like, I feel like I've forgotten this. And then when I got to the end, I was like, okay, it's rough, but like maybe it'll be okay. And then I went back and tried to read it, and I was like, I don't need to read this through to know that this is bad. Like this is so awful, and the plot was it was just bad. Maybe it's not as bad as I feel like it was, but it was pretty bad. One day I'll put it out there so people can see, like, look, you can look at where you can start and where you can end up because it was bad. And then I was like, well, I just have to start over. So I think it felt good in some ways that I had done it, but I also was still very like, okay, I did it, but can I actually do it to where I can like it? And I did, but it was still very difficult.
Like I'm sure it had to have been like easier than starting from nothing. Like having this bad draft and like, okay, how do I make this better? It's probably a lot easier than like, how do I just conjure up something from the earth, like what was that process like of like how did you reapproach that, how did you go back into that stack and like put that together?
That's a good question. I think I had the draft. I didn't look at this draft when redraft. So okay, so one thing that's like weird when writers talk about different drafts, right? Sometimes like it sounds like you're saying, okay, you open a new document and start typing again from the beginning. But sometimes it's just like, okay, no, you have the document, you're just changing stuff, you're moving things around, you're adding, you're deleting. The first draft I did, I completely put away. Like I didn't. There was a couple of things I copy and pasted over, but all of those things eventually got deleted. And I started a new document. And I think the fact that well, for one, the fact that I had written it out and made it bad, I think helped me to believe that I could do it again better, if that makes sense. Like I think creativity is such a mind game of right. Like creatives tend to be such like I don't know like in our heads kind of people. And I think having that, even though I didn't like it, as evidence that I could do this was helpful. I also think I saw like, you know, it was a very like circular process. There were so many things that were different. And I kind of just changed stuff until it started to feel like it made sense. I don't know. I don't know
Mhm.
if that helps is helpful or if that answers your question, but like um I do think it is helpful to have something. I think to start from nothing and make it good, like there's people who do that supposedly, but I think that's super rare and not the way most people operate.
What did that process actually look like? If somebody could like walk up on you in the middle of that season, are you like, you have like, are you writing this stuff? You got like two monitors, like one with the old, one with the new. Are you like writing down paper? Are
Ooh.
you like marking things? Like,
So when I first did the story, I had a very rough outline that was like really small, maybe a page, and then I had the my 40,000 word draft, which is my we'll call it my zero draft. Hated the zero draft, click it away. I went back to the outline
mhm,
and I had my old outline and I started a new outline. And so this new outline I created, because one of the things I was like, the ending is unsatisfying. There's so much more to explore. This needs more books. And so I re outlined it for not just the first book, but the second and part of the third. And then I was like, okay, this is my new outline. And then I would go back to pull up my new draft, shut down the outlines, and start working on the new draft. And eventually, I would get to a point in the draft where I was like, "This isn't working. None of this isn't going anywhere. What do I do?" And so I would pull
mhm,
up the outline, I delete that part of the outline, and then I'd be like, "Okay, this is what's happening." And that's kind of it was a very cyclical process of like, "Okay, here's the plan. Okay, now the plan's not working. New plan. Okay,
mm,
let's try again." And one of the things that was like the biggest change for the book, I think, was like I said, adding that second character of Mark because I had Elias from the beginning and a little bit of his personality. Um, but even so, even as I was rewriting it, I was like, this book is too short. I want to write an epic fantasy. I need minimum 100,000 words, and I'm only able to hit like 50,000. And I was like, you know what would double it? A secondary main
another
character who goes on
guy.
their own journey. And then I was like, okay, well, so obviously, like Elias is a wind caller. This is not a spoiler. He controls the wind. He lives in a country of people who control plants, and the religion of the plant people is a very big part of it. I was like, what if he has a brother who is a priest of the plants, right? And that really helpful because immediately the idea of him being a priest or like in training to be a priest told me what kind of person he was, and like or, I had an image of who he was, and then that image I was like, okay, Elias will be different from that, and it helped me define both of their characters more.
Mm,
So I hope that kind of makes sense. It's super hard to explain like the writing process. Like I feel like this is one of the things with like I've gone through phases where I've watched a lot of art YouTube, and like art YouTube is great because you can see the process in real time. Like you can watch them erase the arm and be like, no, this needs to be here, or this design is bad. And writing is so weird because it's hard to you cannot watch an expert writer write, if that makes sense. So
different.
I've listened to a ton of podcasts of people talking about their processes, and it's just kind of a weird thing to visualize.
You just see like the time lapse of like the Microsoft Word document just going in, getting
Yeah,
edited.
yeah. I know of a writer who she live streams her writing, and she's huge. Like she's the name is Pirate Abba, which is her. She like started online, and she writes this
Mhm.
series called The Wandering Inn, which I haven't read, but my husband loves. And she live streams her writing, which I think is crazy.
Hmm.
I'm like, that's
Interesting.
so brave.
Yeah, that's tough. So
Yeah,
okay,
I haven't watched
mhm,
it, but yeah. Oh, I was just like, I haven't watched her do it. I just know she does.
I gotta check that out definitely. But that brings me to my question too then of how much of the book do you feel wrote itself? Because as creatives we kind of sometimes I feel like I'm talking to the thing that I'm making, and you'll have an idea. It's almost like raising a kid where you're like you have this dream, you have this idea. It's like this is what it's going to be, this is this, and then as it's kind of being made, it's like, nah, I want to do this, like I want to go this way, or like this is the type of story I want to be, and you're like, you can't force it. It's almost like a dad that's like trying to force his kid to do football or something. And the kid's like, nah, I'm not into this. And he's like, nah, you're gonna do football. Like, nah, you gotta kind of let the kid be who he wants to be. And so how much of the Call of Wind do you think just like wrote itself?
My first thought is like to give a percentage, and I don't know if I can do that. But I think most of, maybe like 30%. I think most of it, I was like, okay, this is the plan. Like we're sticking with the plan. You guys got to do this, and like this is what I expect you to do. I have a decent understanding of who you are. Like this is what's happening. Other parts of it, like interestingly enough, the ending, which we'll talk about at the end, uh, is one of the things from the beginning that I had that maintained from my like original idea. Like the ending, I think is it was like something I had planned strongly. But other things like the opening scene, the first chapter, which is the part from the book's cover, is kind of just happened as like I hadn't planned that.
Mhm.
That just happened. I was like, okay, I need a place to start. Oh, I guess this is happening. I guess this is what these
Mm.
people are doing. And there's this one character who I had planned to be just a very small throwaway character at the beginning, and then to never show up in the book again. And then Mark at some point is looking at a group of people, and he's like, "Is that guy?" And I felt like I was with Mark, where I was like, "Oh, that is that guy. What's he doing here? Is he? I guess he's in the book now." So people sometimes do just pop up, and I'm like, "Oh, okay. I
Mm.
guess this is what we're doing."
Because you have so many different moving parts in this story, like just by the end of it, there's a lot going on. There's a lot that you know, and then there's a lot that you don't know. And it
Mhm.
makes me wonder like why you decided to start there and not like earlier, why not later in these people's
Mm.
journeys. Because like especially if it's planning to be a trilogy, I mean there's a lot there. And I feel like there were things that may have even happened like earlier that would be really interesting to dive into. And so it's like, yeah, why'd you pick like right here? This is where I want to.
I think I didn't necessarily pick, okay, this is the moment it's starting. I think I was like, okay, like I love when books have lots of mysteries and reveals and things, right? So I was like, okay, here's this kid, here's these two brothers, these things are going to happen to them, and then as these things happen to them, I was like, oh, but this happened years ago, and that's why this is the way it is today, and this is going to happen, and they don't know that, and that's where this is going. And I think it kind of just I picked the moment we were starting from, and then as I was writing, things grew forward and backward, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
um and I have ideas for you're talking about before. I have idea like I want to write a prequel at some point, because I think there is a lot of interesting stuff that happened before the book starts. Uh, yeah, I don't know when I would do that though, but I
Mm.
definitely want to.
Mm. Yeah, there's like, I mean, even whenever we talk about like a specific character that's like not there anymore, but I'm like, it has me so curious. I'm like, man, like who is that person like? Like what's
Oh
what's going on with them?
yeah,
And
yeah.
man, yeah, especially because we can talk about it more later on, but it is something that like struck a lot of like curiosity in me, especially as one who I would like to make a big story like that, but especially whenever you start getting into the world building like rabbit holes and stuff, it's like you could kind of just start anywhere. It's really fair game, and so it's kind of hard to figure out like what is the best starting point. Maybe it's all up to you anyway, and you make it the best starting point based on how you continue it. I don't know.
I feel like if you have an idea for a big world and you're like, what's the story that I tell from this place? I don't know. I feel like maybe this is a little woo wooey, but it's like whatever you're drawn to, like whatever you're most excited about writing, I think is where you start. I
Hmm.
don't know. Do you have like a big world that you're working on, like a story, a speculative fiction story? I guess it doesn't have to be fantasy.
Kind of, sort of. Like
I
there's
know. Okay. Okay.
I just have these short stories. I've always been a fan of worlds that have just a bunch of different things that normally wouldn't uh mash well together, but they kind of do. Like the Adventure Time world, how you have all these different
Oh yeah.
characters that are like this guy is like a vampire, this guy's like some kind of ice wizard, this guy's a dog, this guy is this, and this. They somehow all make sense. They all just live here. That's just what it is. And then you start to dig into their stories and you start to see like how people became this and that. And like that's what I've been starting to like put groundwork towards. But I know that like I don't think something like that can be rushed. And so I've just been kind of trying to make stories that are fun to me. And then my hope is that as I'm making them, strings will just start to show themselves between, and then like, oh, and like this could all work together, and this could be why this makes sense or why this character is this way. um so yeah, I started off with my comic retrieve, but even in that, like I left a lot of just open doors and holes just for people to like wonder about for now. And my hope is that I can come back and answer those questions for them, like just in other stories.
I think, yeah, I don't think you need to have a huge plan before you get started. Like, I think you're right. Like those, like, just the threads will come to you and the connections, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, this person knew this person the whole long, or this dog knew this vampire.
That's it. And I was I you said that you had seen the Nick Wynn episode. I think that was when I learned that.
Oh yeah.
Whenever I made this comic, I had like he was whispering in my dang ear metaphorically the whole time because I'm thinking about like, well, why does this make sense? The reader needs to know this. And I was like, no, they don't. They don't need to right now. Like you can definitely come back later and circle back and figure it out. Because I mean, some of the reasons why certain things work is just because the author just had an interesting idea, or maybe they got lazy. I heard that Super Saiyan 1 Goku has blonde hair because Akira Toriyama did not feel like coloring in his hair. And he's like,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
it's just gonna be blonde now because I'm not gonna color all of
All
his
right.
hair in. And I'm like, and now it's like one of the most iconic, anime looks like probably ever. And it's off of like just a spur of the moment decision. And so I'm like, oh, so all of this stuff can just be figured out. You really just have to like run
Yeah.
after that excitement, like you were saying before. Another thing about your story is so there's one that goes into like the magic system that I'm very like I want to ask about that, but then there's also uh messaging and like themes based on like they're kind of
Mm.
represented in certain organizations or in certain characters. I want to ask about the magic system first. um would you consider the way the magic works to be a spoiler?
I don't think so. I think the fact that they turn into that it corrupts you, kind
No,
of.
no, it's like
No,
what
okay.
they like how they can use the magic or like what they do,
What they do with it, like
or
in the
like
fights and stuff, how they.
or just how they call upon it. What do they have to do internally to
Oh
use the
no,
magic?
I don't think it's this. No, I think you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I don't know. I'm there plot wise. I'm like no spoilers, but some of the magic system stuff, I'm like, yeah, I think that's fine.
can you tell me about how you created this magic system? It's basically fueled by, the person's emotions. And there's like a positive and a negative kind of side of the coin to each element. And like they can kind of lean into this feeling for each one. And like I know that you make a lot of videos on like adding magic to a story or to a world, but like how did you get to this one in particular? And why did it stick?
I think, well, so actually with this world and the magic, part of where I started with was the the gods and like some of the mythology of it. And there's some things that come to mind that I'm like, okay, after it's all done, we can do, like, after the series is done, we can do this again, and I can tell you like my full thoughts, because some of these things are spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
um the other part of like specifically the emotional connection is you'll be able to like tell kind of what I'm reading and watching like based off of what I'm writing. So I was reading the Stormlight Archive as I was writing this book, which is by
Hmm.
Brandon Sanderson. I don't know, have you read it? It's like one of the big fantasy series. It just got picked up by Apple TV. It's
I've
very good.
seen it.
And huh?
Like I saw the book in the store, but I've never read it. It's so huge. I'm like, man, I
It's
don't.
so huge. It doesn't need to be as huge as it is, but some people like that it's that long.
Mm,
It's very good, and he's
mm,
very good at characters. And I think one concept I'm really big on with characters is like and magic and world building and all that stuff is that it's all connected and it's all there to change the character. Like in the Stormlight Archive, the way the magic works is you literally have to reach a new understanding of kind of yourself and your place in the world to access the next level. So it's kind of
mm,
like a video game, but it's also like the theme is how the magic works. Which my book is not as like the emotion thing is kind of a much smaller thing. I didn't incorporate it as well as I think Storm Sanderson does his stuff with Stormlight. But like the first, there's like certain words they have to say to like move to the next level. And like the first one, for example, is journey before destination. And so you have to accept journey before destination before you go on you move before you access the next level. So
mm,
with the emotions, I was just thinking, okay, like elements are typically associated with emotions, right? Like in the last Airbender, firebenders, you know, you think about them being angry and the like, you know, like Azula has one kind of rage and Zuko kind of has a different kind of rage, and you know the airbenders are all peaceful. So I was like, okay, what are different like emotions that I could weave into the magic that also kind of reflect the characters and what they have going on, like going off of.
mm.
I hope that makes sense. I wanted the magic to be like, okay, connect with the characters who have it, be part of their arcs.
Yeah, I thought that was so. I thought that was so like powerful to think like, oh, to control their power, it's like to control their like emotion or their like maybe their natural impulses to things, and it's like the better that you are as a caller, like probably the more balanced and experienced you are with managing your emotions, and it kind of makes me think of like since you watch Avatar, it makes me think about the like when Iroh was talking to Zuko about like you can learn things from the other benders. Just because you don't bend water doesn't mean you can't learn something from these water benders. Or like, you know, a firebender that studies the water benders can learn something like other firebenders don't mess with. And I felt like Elias was getting a bunch of that, you know, even just being with his uncle as like a fire caller, and like he's like learning about like different sides of emotion based off of, you know, just other elements. Even though that he can only control wind, it's like he's still getting like experience and kind of understanding of like how to approach his element through a fire caller. And like, man, it's there was a section of the book I remember I had like highlighted it on the Kindle, and I wanted to read
Ooh.
that off because it was like, dang, that's crazy. I remember I was at the dentist reading this. I was like, dang, that's crazy. Like this is
That's awesome. I love that. I see. I'm like, that's just so great. It's crazy to hear people talk about your work like that, you know. Because for me, I'm like, even though I'm really pleased with the final book, I still look at this and I'm like, I could have
oh
done
yeah.
something different. Like if I wrote it again today, it'd be different. But like that's like no creative is ever gonna not feel like that about anything, I think.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like nobody's ever looking for the perfect thing, you know. And then like just because it's not perfect doesn't mean it won't be like a perfect fit for somebody, you know. But that's like the the big, I don't know, the big curse or like that cycle of thinking that creatives have. It's just like we always got a little something that we're not happy with, but it keeps us going,
Hmm.
you know. Something we gotta accept. That's the tax, I guess. but
For sure.
but it was there was a thing that kind of dived into the element itself and says you can't be brave without first being afraid, can you? Each aspect seems to be connected to somewhat correlated emotions. Whether they are opposites or two sides of the same coin isn't exactly clear. Perhaps the core of it is something we don't have words for, something that corresponds with each of these forces. perhaps what we perceive as intangible emotions is in fact made of the same stuff that compromises the aspects of nature that can be called. And I wonder if that, like, how much of that do you believe to be actually true versus like, this is just what I wrote for the story?
Some of it is I definitely just wrote it for the story. So like the idea of like okay maybe um our emotion like the whole thing Ignacio is saying about like okay maybe the emotions exist somewhere in some other physical thing connected to nature. I just thought that sounded cool.
Mm-hmm.
For some of it, though, I do, at least like the way human emotion works, I do think sometimes like the positives and the negatives like often go hand in hand, right? Like it's this there's a quote that like people are like, oh, like the furthest thing from love isn't hate, it's indifference. Like love and hate are like actually more closely together because like I don't know, people tend not to hate each other out of nowhere, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if they know each other. It's like love that's gone bad sometimes.
Mm.
And I think especially for fear and bravery, um, like that in particular, I'm like, you can't be brave unless you're afraid, right? Like if you're not scared to do something, then when you do it, you're not overcoming it. You're not being brave. You're just doing what's something easy. Like I'm not afraid to like get in my car, I guess. And like so it's not brave for me to go drive somewhere. But someone who is afraid of driving for whatever reason, they have bad experiences with it. That is an act of bravery. So
Mm.
and I think what are some of the other emotions he talks about like I don't know, like stubbornness and determination. I don't know if he talked
Yep.
about that. That is that's like for the stone callers though. Because it's like again, like stubbornness can be a character flaw, right? Like you have to be open to new things at certain points in your life. And like just in general, like you have to be willing to consider that you're wrong. But at the same time, there's like something to be said for like putting your foot down and being like, no, I know that this is how things need to be or that this is how things are. And I'm not moving from that. So I
Mm.
do feel like they're, you know, the positive and negatives are kind of interconnected.
And it does still like tie into like for their use of like as elements themselves. Like a fire can be, you know, a saving grace in like a storm, but it could also be the thing that like takes down a whole neighborhood. Or it can be like water, it's essential. We literally need it to survive, but then like people drown and get killed by like tsunamis and storms. And so it's so funny to see like that parallel, and it works so well because it almost makes me wonder like as we continue through the story, you know, what parts of the emotions are people calling on when they're fighting? Like, are these people using are they calling water from I forgot the other side of water. I know there was sadness and then
Water, the other one is like water was the one I feel least confident about. So
mm,
behind the curtain. I think the other one was like it was like acceptance or something or like
okay,
peace.
yeah.
I think it's peace. So it's like okay, you can wallow, you know, you see the bad you're seeing the bad in situations and you're wallowing versus like no, whatever happens, I'll like write it out. I guess that was the closest thing I can connect to because the other ones came pretty easy, right? I was like fire. I was like okay, anger, passion. Stone is stubbornness, determination. Wind, fear, bravery. I have one for the life calling, but I don't think Ignacio says what it is, so I'm not going to say what it is.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I'm like I don't know.
Yeah,
But
this
again,
is
when the
definitely
series is
like an
done, we can
eyebrow
talk about
raiser.
it.
I was like, which one? I don't know. But
What
yeah,
are
like
they? Yeah.
that just makes me like wonder about, or it just has me like really excited to learn about just more about the characters and the way that they use their abilities because it after that point it did make me think like okay are these stone callers fighting with determination or are they fighting with stubbornness or like it really made me like okay well, which emotion are they pulling on in this moment and it just added like another layer of depth to it because it could have just been like yeah, he can move rocks, and that's just what it is. But it's like, nah, there's just more to it, and it depends on like how this person's feeling. And like, you might make somebody more or less powerful by the way that you can manipulate somebody's mind. You know, if you can take away their ability to be stubborn, if you can break down that wall mentally for them, like, do you disable the caller? And it's like, those were the weeds that I got into as I was reading.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that you're theorizing about it as you're reading
Yeah.
it.
Telling you, it was tight, man. It was tight. So in
I'm so
terms of
I'm I'm so glad. I'm like, whew.
Yeah, I mean it, and I know I'm not the I know I can't be the one that dug the deepest hole with this. Like I know there's people out there that's just like theorizing and like just making these like hypotheticals and stuff. Somebody's got a big flow chart somewhere. Somebody's got it. I know there's it's gonna be like a wiki out there at some point.
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, right? I'm still waiting for fan art. I'm like, that's how writers know they've made it, right? Like you get the random tagged in random fan art, and you're like, yes.
They're like, oh shoot. Yeah, there's I always get hesitant to make art off of novels because I think part of the power is like the fact that there's no pictures other than like the cover. You have this idea of like what the person looks like in your head, and then like when somebody makes artwork for it, it's like it kind of it takes that away because now it's like, well, they're spoken for. They like this is what they look like,
Mhm.
and so then it's like it makes it harder to really like imagine things like just based off the description because then it's like there it is right there. Just look at it, you know? It's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's why people have such a hard time with movie adaptations, right? Because they're like, "This is what the movie is in my head," and then when the movie happens, they're like, "That's not what those people looked like. They're
Yep.
supposed to look exactly like this because that's obviously what they were to me." And it's like, "Well,
Yep.
you can't. They're actors. They're not going to be these fictional people."
Yeah, that's huge. That's why it's like it's always a little bit interesting, but yeah, definitely understand where you're coming from though. Like when people make these like book just illustrations based off of like the characters. It's always a good time to see those.
Mhm.
Um when it comes to Ishira and the like the worship of Gaia and man, it's there was something there that had like it's so interesting to try and break that down because I saw so many parallels with Christianity as well. Like my family's Christian and like I mean I went to church growing up and stuff like that and it's just so interesting like as I've gotten older and as I talk to like my siblings and my cousins and how we feel about the religion and then like I feel like Christianity gets like a pretty bad rep nowadays. I know that like there's a lot of things that can be like eyebrow raising for people and it felt like you were pulling on a lot of those strings when you were designing like Eshira and like their religion and I'm curious to know were there any real experiences that you had personally that kind of made it into the book by way of like the Ashirans, like watching the big ritual in the beginning, or the way that you can't speak about you can't speak about Gaia in a specific kind of way, or the way that there's such harsh standards for like the priests in there and it's very like I don't know, very like tight knit at a certain level, you know. I'm curious to know if like how does that align with your experience in your religion?
Yeah, so yeah, I definitely see the themes. It's not again, it's not meant to be like a critique of Christianity,
Hmm.
like of what I believe is true Christianity, right? Like,
Hmm.
but it is a critique of what happens, I think, when religion becomes like a political mandate, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Obviously in Ashira, the lines between the Grove, which is their church, and their government are like non-existent. Like the Grove is everything and like it's every facet of life. It determines everything about you and your life. Um, and I just am like, obviously separation of church and state is something that like is not super controversial to say in the US, I think. Like it's always been a thing. But really like sometimes people I think they think that okay if we introduced more religion into government like that would make government better and I'm like no it would just make religion worse like they really need to be separate and I think American church can get things confused in that there's more of an emphasis on the rules and the tradition and some of these things than on the message, right, which is that like no matter who you are or what you've done like Jesus loves you and wants you. um and like there's parts in the book right where Mark is the one who's super religious where he's like okay this is what I've been taught but this is what these people are doing like this doesn't line up. Now, I will say also, Gaia is not meant to be. This is hopefully not a spoiler. I feel like this is obvious. Gaia is not a stand-in for God or Jesus in the way like Aslan is in Narnia.
Mm.
Um, but I think that like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting idea to play with of like, okay, what happens when like these people are using religion as like a means of control and are putting more, they put more into the religion than like the relationship, I guess. Which again, the relationship people have with Guy in this book is not like a relationship like you have with Jesus, but I think some of the traditional things and like the serious, the like not seriousness, the like lack of grace, I think sometimes the church, at least in the US, can fall into that. And
Mhm.
I think that's, I don't know, I think that's not correct.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I personally like will feel. I mean, I've had. I mean, myself and then friends where like certain. It's such a weird contrast when you have a way that you want to live, and then like it's so separate from like what the church or what your own religion is telling you you need to be living like. And sometimes, like, of course, there's things that like people kind of see as universally like negative, like if you're going out and you're like robbing and killing and stealing all this stuff. But just in terms of like how you want to be and like how you want to live, if that is in a natural contrast from your religion, it's like it can kind of pull you in two different directions, which is really interesting. I've had like friends and stuff who, they're wondering about like their sexuality and things like that, and but then they're like, dang, like I still love the church, but then like I'm also like I don't know about this part of myself. And it's just interesting to see how people will like I feel like in the book there are times where like Mark is having to make certain decisions and like they do contrast with the values of the Grove, and it's like but it still feels like for him it's like the right thing to do. And I like how you were able to illustrate that, like that just what is that like two-sidedness or that conflicting feeling within himself of like, dang, do I do I trust my impulses or do I trust my teachings? And it's like you don't always get it right, but is there even like a wrong decision? Like you don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, and we should all like everyone should be willing to question what they've been taught. Like any that was one thing that I think my parents are, they question everything. Sometimes like they're very like, like I said, they homeschooled 4 kids. They're uh definitely countercultural in a way. But like some of the people that I grew up with, it's like, like, oh, let's not consider, like, let's not, we don't want to talk about like ideas like evolution or like other religions, like we don't want to talk about that and like entertain these ideas. And I'm like, that's that's not good, that's a red flag. Like um I don't know if this is a quote from somewhere, but like the truth should never be afraid of the truth, right? Like there's no need
Mm,
to fear looking at other things and like questioning and thinking critically. And I think that's one of Mark's big character flaws is he's afraid to be like, okay, wait, let me think about this. Like, we have like, and again, in the real world, right? I believe like, we all are given logic and reason for reasons, right? Like God doesn't want unthinking drones. And even if you read the Bible, there's a lot of like back and forth where people suggest different arguments, and then they kind of like, um, you know, Paul's like, oh, okay, I say this. Well, then maybe you'd say this, and here's my response to that. And I just think it's not like, yeah, we don't need to be scared, right? Which is part of why I'm like, uh, there can be a religious organization that's evil in a book, and that doesn't mean that book is anti-Christian. Like Christians kind of need to um, get over that. I think.
mhm. Yeah, it's
One thing.
mhm.
This is. Oh, go ahead. Go
Go
ahead.
for it. You got it.
Okay, I was going to start off on a little tangent. One
Hmm.
thing. This is uh, a tangent, kind of a hot take, not a hot take, but like as far as like Christian themes in media, two of my favorite like things that I feel like actually represent the true gospel in some way are actually Red Rising and Vinland Saga. Neither of which I think are made by
Mm,
Christian people, but Vinland Saga, right, the anime, a huge part of it is this theme of, do I seek vengeance or can I forgive my enemies? And then even
Mm,
Red Rising also is this sci-fi book, and there's characters in it that do horrible, horrible things, and the main character is constantly trying to win them back to him. And like, there's this really poignant scene where, like, I mean, this isn't spoilers, but like, because I'm not going to be specific, but like, this character's done some truly atrocious things where you're like, this guy deserves the worst punishment possible. And the main character's like, hey, I think you can still be my brother. And I think that's just like a really beautiful thing. And I think Christian media sometimes is afraid to go to the dark places that I think you have to be able to see, like, okay, no, but this is the light that is being offered. Um, so that's kind of, I don't know what I think about. I think Christian media could be darker. I think the Bible has a lot of, like, is not afraid to show the people in it being bad, right?
mm, mm,
And I think Christians sometimes are like, no, everything's got to be squeaky clean. Everything's got to be
mm, mm.
safe, and not make me question what I think. And again, this is generalizing. This is people I know. Some of the books I've read.
It's all, I mean, it's all just speaking about these individuals' stories and the religions that are in there. I mean, I'm not trying to like start up like a Christian like kind of like stab or anything, but it's just seeing like the just certain parallels doesn't mean that it's directly tied to it. But I did think it was interesting just, growing up as a Christian as well. It's just my experiences with especially the whole like um not wanting to question certain things or not wanting to look that direction, like no, we only think of the positive. I was taught to only speak on the positive, like you don't say negative things at all. Like I know like my mom,
Hmm.
she like if she ever got sick, she would never say she was sick. Like she could be
Hmm.
like literally just in bed and she's coughing and got all kind of stuff going on and she's like, "No, I'm not sick. I'm not sick." Cuz like she just doesn't want to say she won't like just be able to call something what it is. And I think that that's so huge cuz like I learned that same feeling. I had to learn to kind of shake that off of like there's nothing wrong with being able to see the other side of it. Like that's just a part of life. There's two sides to things and I feel like living that way it can kind of distort how you see the world and how you make decisions if you're not willing to look at that side. And it was something that was so interesting to tie it back into to the Call of Wind. It was nice to see Mark make certain decisions that like he wasn't happy with at first, and then he still had to press forward. He still had to make the best of where he was and what he was doing. And I feel like that's a powerful message that people can get from reading the book. Is like you don't always have to be happy with every decision, but you can still make the best of what happens afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the things that I think is good with, like, thinking about themes in books is I didn't kind of like come at the book with a certain theme. I was just like, okay, these are the characters. Like, I know who, like, the Grove, like I know a lot of stuff about the Grove that is not in the book yet. That, like, doesn't come out in book one. And so I was just like, okay, who are these people? What kind of comes out of that? Who is Mark? What kind of comes out of that? And like, I think the themes should kind of arise naturally from what is on the page. And I also think it's like different people have different interpretations of those themes, which I think is good. And I think that's how it should be. I think a book that is clear, like, no, this is the theme, this is the message, is sometimes it's less interesting to discuss and think about. Um, I like books where that's like, okay, we're gonna leave you with something, and then you gotta go think about it.
Speaking of like themes and characters, uh, how much of yourself do you think is represented in your characters, and like whether it's like, oh, these characters are specifically me? Are there any characters out there that are like, this is exactly how I am. This is basically me in the story, as well as like maybe certain people in your life that you feel you wrote basically into the book to have like a good twist on the story itself. I know that I can see certain influences based on just what you were telling me about, like being mixed race and even having like what was the other? was another thing that you said? Yeah, and then even like your religious background and stuff too, just having the association like church and things. But um, what other characteristics do you think of yourself made it into your characters?
Well, I definitely think some did. I want them to be different from me. So hopefully they're not too like I don't think any of them are like I don't think there is a character that has like a large part of my characteristic just because I want them to be different. Hopefully that's how they came across or like hopefully that's how they are.
Mm.
But there definitely are pieces of me in them like in really small things. Like sometimes Mark is talking to people and he's like, their face is trying to tell me something. What are I can't and like it's, it's an experience that I've had. And like there's certain things about Mark that like and about the way he views the world where he's like very methodical and like kind of I don't know, maybe not blunt, but he's like very like kind of literal. And there's some things that he has a little bit in common with my dad in a few ways. Though my dad is definitely a question everything person. Like I said, he is half Cuban, and they're like the Cubans are very like the government would do absolutely anything to you. They're like we trust no one. At least the ones that are in the U.S. that I know, they're like no. I think I have a couple of things in common with Ignacio, um, as he's like the academic. And I think it's really fun to write him because it's almost like, okay, here's some things, and I'm not going to get into spoilers, but like, there's a couple things I have in common with him, and he's very academic, and like I am as well. I'm trying to think of other characters and if I have things in common with them. I think those are the main ones. There's some things I have in common with Alda. You don't get a perspective from her in this book, but you there's a novella from her perspective. Um, so yeah, I think just little drops, little
Hmm.
hints.
Okay. All good. I was just curious. I know like we kind of put ourselves into our work unintentionally sometimes. I was curious to know how much of that, made it in. And
Yeah,
then
I think
mhm,
whatever. Yeah, I think most of it unintentional, but yeah, there's a little bit.
mhm. And then I was listening to an interview. I think it was with VE Schwab,
Oh
and
yeah.
she said something that I thought was really interesting was as she writes books, there's like a whisper or like the voices of the character she's made speaks like they kind of speak to her as she's writing. And like because I guess once you've made a character so defined and you can know like okay what would they do in this situation and you can answer that, they start to kind of like speak for themselves almost during the process. And I wanted to know if like as you're writing book two or just even if you're just writing other things, like if you just have something like a different side project that you're working on, do you hear these characters voices in your head as you're writing?
I think probably not really. I think that's really cool. I don't think I fully experienced that. I do think I sometimes when writing like we were talking about earlier like it becomes more their voice than mine, which I think
Mhm.
is perfect, but I don't think when it's not on the page I don't really interact with the characters that way, mostly just because I don't know why that's not how I view it. But
Yeah.
I love VE Bob. She's an amazing writer. I've listened to some of her podcasts too.
Man, I haven't read any of her books, but they all sound so interesting. And I know my girlfriend, she has read a bunch of her books, and she swears by her writing. That she's like, man, this is like top tier writing right here. Mm.
I really like her book Vicious, which I read a really long time ago, so I don't know if I remember it super well. But that's a book that does a really interesting exploration of like, okay, here's a person with a very like unique type of thinking, like a unique mindset, and like let's really get into their head. Like she does a really great job of that.
I have a couple of questions about when you were building the world. And you might even be in this space now that you're still writing this story, but um in terms of your mental state as you're creating, right? There's, I kind of think of creative ideas and inspiration as like a river where things will just kind of like
Mm.
you'll just see things kind of just drift down and like you can pick something out of the river If you don't, like, it's not going to be gone immediately. You might remember it, but it's just a little bit further down. Eventually things get kind of too far and you might forget about the idea entirely, but there's always just like a new flow of stuff coming in and like old stuff going out. And I'm curious to know your what that flowing river was for you, or like how did that river look, and like how much of it were you pulling out, like how much stuff were you pulling out of that river?
Yeah, I feel like I really like the river metaphor you use. I've never thought of it that way, but I'm like, okay, yes, I see that. Yes, where it's like, okay, there's always going to be more ideas. I think sometimes people are like, how do you get ideas? And I'm like, it kind of is like that river where they're always flowing in. Yeah, I think the further I've gotten into it, the more I have ideas pop up. Like when I was first building the world, like it was like pulling teeth, where I was like, okay, like we're trying to uncover stuff. Like who are these people? Where are they? What's going on? And as I learn more and more about it, it's like more stuff keeps coming, and I'm like, oh, okay, so they have this too, and now oh, this person's been doing this time, and like, oh, all these things. And yeah, I definitely will sometimes. I don't always keep sticky notes by my bed, but I need to not. I need to not keep my phone by my bed, but I do. And so I'll pull it out and like open notes real quick and be like, okay, let me write this down before I forget. Um,
I wanted to ask like a couple of questions about just building a world in general and building like a narrative around specific characters, or around like I can get to a point where I'll have a general idea of something that I want to do. Like, oh, I want to make a story about this. But it kind of just stays as like this one liner. And I sometimes I don't know how to expand on it, or kind of what to fuel it with. And it kind of it's just there, like, and if I kind of work it enough I can turn it into something small. But I wanted to know if there's any approaches that you take to just random like 3 a.m. thoughts to be able to turn them into stories a lot easier.
Okay, that's a good question. I think this is an area in which we think differently because I think I have a harder time distilling ideas into single lines than bringing the single line ideas into big ideas. Um, but one thing I think that might be like helpful as like a practical thing is like keep notes on my phone as I like read books and watch shows and stuff of like this is a cool idea, like oh this oh my god, I think Naruto. I haven't finished Naruto. I've watched some of
Ooh.
Naruto, and there's this one point where they introduce these small characters. They're like twins, and like they're like trying to get the same, like both be the chief of the clan or whatever. And there's like some specific reason why it's the younger one instead of the older one. I don't remember, but I was like, oh, that's a cool concept. These twins wanting to both be in charge, and so like I wrote that down. And so I have all these little snippets of ideas that are like, oh, okay, what if it was like this type of magic, these type of characters. And sometimes if I'm stuck, I can look at those snippets of ideas and be like, okay, what if we added this to that? I think the other thing that I would say to you specifically is like if you've got that small idea and you're kind of pull it and you make it into something bigger and you're like, well, it's still not as big as I want it. I would just like just keep pulling it. Like take it further than you think you need to maybe. And like ask questions about it. Like what you were doing with the magic for my book where you were like, okay, well, what if like could people mess with their mindset to like affect their powers, and like I don't really touch on that in this, and that's not even something I'd thought of, but like that's a great, like there's so many things that could come up out of that, right? If like magic is based off of like concentration or your emotional state, and characters are like, they're able to disrupt each other. Now you can think, okay, well, maybe is there a whole type of fighting that is specifically about throwing people off? And so like, and then you can be like, okay, if that's the thing, like how does that affect other things in the world? And so I was like, keep asking questions and like pulling at the threads. And I
Threads.
feel like you probably already do it more than you think you do with like literally you were literally doing it with my book. And I bet if you like view your own stuff, it's like, okay, I'm just curious about this, like what would happen if this, like you would be surprised with like how many ideas are actually in your
Mhm.
smaller idea.
Mhm. I think there's something to be said about taking the intentional time to develop an idea. I think a lot of times we hear about stories that just happen or just kind of come up and pop up. And so I think people will think like if it didn't pop up for me, then that I just don't get it. And but there is a lot of a lot of this that is actually sitting down to really like pull the thread, like you said, like it's not gonna pull itself. Like it might in certain ways, but it's definitely not gonna go as far as like if you take some intentional time to like really work at it. Like there's times where I'll have a design for a character and I'm trying to figure it out, and I can have like an idea for what they might look like, but it's not until like I draw it out and then I gotta draw it again and draw it again.
Mm.
I might go and sleep on it, come back. Oh, like this actually works. Oh, this is actually better. This is smoother. And yeah, it's a lot of that. You definitely have to put in a lot of like intentional time to like kind of mold, your stuff.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I spent a lot of time when I was working on the first book, like just walking around and talking to myself and like being like, okay, what if this happens? If that happened, then that happened. And then like being like, okay, no, that doesn't make any sense because there's this, this, and this. And then I have to be like, okay, maybe it's this other way. And it just takes, I feel like, again, like with writing, it's kind of mysterious. Like you feel like people just come up with these things out of nowhere. And it's actually like, no, you kind of, it's a lot of trial and error.
You gotta like not necessarily fight with it, but you gotta work with it. You have to converse
Yeah, you
with
gotta
it.
fight with it a little bit, I feel like. Yeah, I think that's okay to say. It's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
But it's also fun, you get to, experiment with the different ideas. And because it's just you and your mind or you and the paper, if you don't like it, you can just throw it away. Nobody ever needs to see it. So
Yeah,
low stakes.
I be feeling like I'm crazy sometimes. Like I'll literally just be walking around like just like how you said where you're sitting there and you're just kind of like I don't know if what you were just describing was like you on the page or if this is you like walking around like in the kitchen just like talking, but that don't like I am
I would
now like
literally walk around in the kitchen. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm like, man, well then what if this works or like I don't know if that's gonna happen like this or like that. And I'm doing that more so like with visual aesthetics, but yeah, just that sometimes it's like, dang, I don't know what's important sometimes. I don't know if like what I'm thinking about right now needs to get written down or if it's gonna be so important that I'll remember it anyway. Or like I don't know. It's kind of rough. It's it's kind of like I don't know how to do this, man. I don't know what I'm supposed to do about all of these thoughts that I be having like just on a daily.
Yeah, voice notes, voice recordings are awesome. I do that sometimes when I'm talking stuff through. Also, like you were talking about in the last Airbender, how they like the Iroh tells Zuko learn from the other callers. I feel like also for creatives, it's like, hey, there's tricks and hacks you can take from other disciplines. Like my brother is a computer programmer, and they do this thing they call it rubber ducking, where you have it's like okay, pretend. Well, in his case, he literally has a rubber duck on his desk, and it's like if you get stuck, talk to the rubber duck and like in the process of talking it out you'll realize what the problem is and I'm like sometimes
Mm,
that's what we need to do as creatives too is like pretend we're talking to this thing and oh there it is that's what it was all along.
hmm. Yeah, I do that a lot with the dog and with my girlfriend. Like I'll just be sitting there like talking to them about how this is gonna work, and then like I might make something make sense for myself out of that. I'm like, oh shoot, that's actually how it gets put together, and it's so funny because I'm like, oh thank you, and they're like, all right, like the
Your
dog doesn't
girlfriend's
say
like
anything.
hey.
Yeah, like my dog don't say
She's like
nothing, but
whatever.
he just like looking like, okay, fine.
The dog's like wow humans are weird what's going on.
Yeah, and
That's so funny. I talk to my
mm,
husband too like that. I'm like I'm not going to give you any context, let me just speak about this.
do they ever have like a like I'm trying to like think about the the response that like I'll normally get. Like she'll be pretty engaged with like what I'm saying or like she'll try to bounce ideas off of me, but there's so much of like a like she can tell when I'm coming up the stairs and I got something. She's like, "Oh, here you come with that with that stuff." Like, does he get that? Like, do you kind of? He's like, "Oh, you're
Yes,
about to
he
tell me something, aren't you?"
does. Yes, he does. And sometimes I'll go on and I can go on and on and on and like monologue for like 15 minutes. And I'm like, wow, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk your ear off. Like, I've just been talking this whole time. And he's like, I knew you were going to. It's fine.
So funny, so funny. We're all living the same life.
Mhm.
I'm curious about like how you stay productive through your through through this time. So like you used to work a job, and if I'm gonna make an assumption, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, so
I'll go for
yeah,
it.
I quit. I
Hmm.
quit. I was like, I
No.
quit. I quit August 2024. No, is
Mm,
that right? Yes, I did
mm,
because I was like, well, for one, there were a lot of reasons why I quit that job, but I was like, okay, I have got to make. If I don't make like my husband has a really good job, we don't have kids, and I was like, this is the time to pursue this with all that I have. And again, the stakes would be a lot higher if we had kids. So I'm gonna go. And I also, 'cause again, I'm a little bit all over the place. I also thought I
mm,
went back to school for a little bit. I thought about getting a master's in English, and then I was like, no, this is a distraction. The book, thought that that's the thing. So I quit that too, um,
mm,
and now I write, but I also freelance and I do some random stuff like tutoring and like random things.
mhm.
So that makes more money than the books right now. But one day I'm like, it'll be the other way around.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, productivity is something that I think a lot about. It's very hard when you
Mm,
work from home, basically. Um,
yeah.
I try to track my time, like where I used to work. You clock in. They had like a time tracker, so you clock in, and I do that with writing, where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna clock in, and now I'm on the clock and I'm writing, and I feel like that helps as like a mental trick to be like, okay, we're gonna focus. But I definitely will say that like I have found it to be harder than I thought it would to like stay productive all the
Mm,
time.
mhm. Yeah, like especially being at
Do you
home.
are you a full-time artist at home, or
Yep.
okay, cool.
Yep. And I mainly do murals and then like graphic design. That's really like that's really how I make a living. And I would love to start like making, I don't know, like because the murals themselves are really cool, but they're because I make them cool. Like there's like ideas that come to me, and they might be like companies that like they're not necessarily like, oh, this is the perfect type of company for me, but it's like I kind of, I guess, find like a medium where like we both enjoy the work we're doing. Like I did some work for our local hospital here in the city, and like my work doesn't necessarily scream healthcare, but like we made something work in it all, and it was pretty fun. It was cool, but I would like to be able to make work that is like in line with uh just kind of like the stuff that I like to do already, you know.
Yeah, that's the dream. That's the dream for all the creatives, or for most of us anyway. Some
Hmm.
people are like, I don't need the stress attached to the art, and I think that's totally valid. If you're like,
Hmm.
this is the day job, and then after that, I'm free. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
I'm curious to know about the way that you talked about your process and like staying productive, but I remember specifically watching a video of yours that spoke about screen time and like managing distractions. And I feel like that's such a huge thing now. Like I'll find myself like, oh, I'm gonna lock in, I'm gonna do a design for this character. And then I'll be putting together like a mood board or something on Pinterest. And one of the pins is like an ad for something on Amazon. Now I'm going down Amazon because I need another charger because mine sucks. And now I have three chargers in my cart, and I'm trying to figure out which one I want to get. And I'm like, what am I doing? I've been scrolling down Amazon for 30 minutes. Or like I've got this app called Opal, and it like cuts
Oh,
off.
I have that.
That's a fire
Yes.
app. The app is fire. And it
Yes.
helps me so much with like staying locked in because man, when Instagram is up, when like X is up, when YouTube's nasty. YouTube takes a
Yeah.
lot of my time. And um I can I can do it if like I have a podcast going in the back, like if I can just kind of be listening to it. But anything that's like visually interesting, like these like video essays and stuff, I just find myself just watching, and I'm like, yo, I'm not working. And how do you go about? managing these distractions and like trying to minimize screen time something that you do, or like how do you
Yeah,
approach it?
I don't think I've reached it. I think like that's something I'm still figuring out because I also am like very distracted by my phone. And I feel like one thing that's made it worse is I'm social media is the main way I'm marketing my book because it's free. But it takes a ton of time, and man, is it addicting to watch the view count go up and like see the thing. It's like so, I mean, it's designed, right, to keep you on it as long as possible. So I find myself like I get stuck on my book and I'm like, you know what? Let me see how that latest post is doing. And then I open it and then I check it on all the different apps I post on. And then I'm like, oh, what's this video? And now I've watched like reels for 45 minutes and I'm like, oh gosh, this is the worst. So yeah, I have used Opal. I stopped using Opal for a second because I was like, no, I want to check my things all the time, and I need to turn it back on because I'm like, I really need to stop checking all the stats all the time.
Right.
I specifically don't have my Amazon account on my phone because the amount of times, even just on my laptop, I go to refresh my sales is not good. It's just not healthy. There's no reason to do it like that. But yeah, I'm really trying to be better about that. I think one thing that might help is replacing it with something else. So I'm trying to replace phone time with more reading time, be it audiobook or like on my Kindle app. Like I think that will help, but you know, I'm
Hmm.
still struggling, I guess.
Yeah.
I know. What do you do to me? Do you say you have Opal? Do you have anything else, or are you like me, where you're like, I'm s- I'm suffering?
Like I suffer. I think I've gotten a lot better with it recently, because with Opal, the way that it does, because like the iPhone, the iPhone will already have like a screen time blocker where it'll be like, oh, you've spent your
Mm,
daily limit. But it's so easy to just hit that and like bypass it. It doesn't stop like
yes.
you from going anywhere. And I have that same dilemma like that you have, where it's like, I if it wasn't for the fact that I get a lot of my business through Instagram, I probably wouldn't even have it. Like it would just be out. And but I'm like, dang, that's going to hurt my business if I just delete Instagram. So like I feel like I
Yeah.
need it. But then so I just make sure that I have Opal, and I block a significant amount of the day. So I block it from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. And I feel like by
Mm,
9 p.m., hopefully I've done enough work throughout the day to be able to like guilt free be able to like go on social media. And then it's also like it also helps me kind of get up a little bit earlier, because I'm like, okay, if I can get to my phone before 11, then I can kind of check my Insta, send out like correspondence, DMs, or like send off emails, do whatever I need to do. And then by the time 11 comes through, it's like, all right, it's time to hit the ground run. It's time to do some work. And that's how I do it. And then sometimes I'll get messed up though, where it's like if I'm trying to put out a post and it's like my prime time is like 1 p.m., I have to use Opal to like they'll give you like a little break in between, and they'll give you like up to 15 minutes. And so I'll hit that. And you get 15 minutes to just kind of like see all the apps, everything's unblocked. And so I'll go in there and I'll like respond to a message if I'm like waiting for somebody's message back, or if I know I've been working really hard and then like I feel like I've like earned the like that like treat, I guess, like, oh yeah, I can just go down here, then I'll do that. But yeah, I just try to like really stick to Opal. And it's funny how like, you know, the whole day will go by and 9 o'clock will hit and all my apps come back and I'm like, oh, I didn't even miss anything. I didn't even get any like notifications.
mm,
But I also don't post as much. Like I post every now and then. I kind of just post my art and go. And so I feel like if I were putting out a lot more posts, I'd probably be more eager to like look and see how they're doing. But I kind of keep them to like a minimum. I have the Vertex pod page, and like I put out like when videos come out on there. But yeah, just for my personal stuff, I just kind of I don't know. I felt like I was gonna miss a lot more throughout the day, like with Opal on. But then I'm like, 9 o'clock comes around, I'm like, oh, I didn't get anything. Like a couple of group chats kind of dinged a little bit, but nothing crazy.
That's good. You're inspiring me to re-download Opal. I think my reason I deleted it was I was like, oh well, I have to film the TikToks in the TikTok app because people say that that makes a difference. But I don't know if that really makes a difference. And I can always try it or like leave one day, like maybe Friday could be like filming and editing day where there's no block. Because yeah, it's so insidious. It's not good.
And you know what helps too? What's so like this has been a huge thing. Scheduling posts. Scheduling posts and messages
Mm,
have been like so key because I'll have like a post and instead of like it takes a long time now. Like you gotta pick the right picture or the right video. You gotta like edit it. You gotta like throw music on there. You gotta write a caption. What's your hashtags? What's
mm,
this and this and this and this?
mhm.
And then like then you post it. And like that could take you an hour to put all that stuff together. Especially like for me, I'm like, nah, that's not the right vibe. That's not the right song. That's not, that doesn't really fit. Or does this line up with what this needs to be? You know, like there's all the weeds you get into when it comes to like curating that post. And so I would rather do that like in the nighttime after I've done everything versus like burning up from 2 to 4 p.m. trying to get a post out. Because I've done that a million times. And I'm like, dang, I done did all this to get this post out for it to get 10 likes. And I'm like, dang, dang it. And I'd rather just schedule it off
Yeah.
the night before or something like that. And then like Opal's already blocked. So then I scheduled it off. It's gonna post on its own. I don't see anything all day, and then here comes 9 o'clock. Hopefully, I'm done with work, and all the notifications come through. So it's like a lot nicer because now I'm like, oh, I get to see everything pull through versus like when you post something and you're checking it every like 5-10 minutes. You're like, oh dang, how's it doing now? How's it doing now? Versus like it's been 5 hours and like you see all of it kind of flood through. I feel like it's a lot more satisfying on the back end. It's not really as fun during the day because you know like the post is out. How's it doing? I don't know. I don't know. And then,
Mhm.
you mess around and forget about it. And then you come back. Oh, shoot. Look at this. Look at all these comments, all these likes. So that's kind of how I go about it. Is like, I do a lot of scheduling of posts.
That's yeah, I've seen people say like, "Oh, like people are so superstitious about the algorithm. They're like, you have to post the same exact time every day. You've got to do it all in the app. You've got to like at some point I was editing the videos twice, once in TikTok and then once in Instagram. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I can't like I don't think all those things matter as much as maybe just an interesting video. So I'm trying like this is good. I need to retry this again and be like, okay, maybe I don't have to hit all the superstitious algorithm boxes. I know it's
Yeah.
worth an experiment at least. It's worth trying for a week and seeing if everything tanks or if it proceeds as normal. It'd probably proceed as normal.
Yeah. Cause like, I don't know. I was kind of tired of playing the algorithm game because there was nothing that stuck all the way. Like for everybody that said one thing, it was working with the other thing. They'll be like, "Oh, you need hashtags," and then like posts with no hashtags are popping off, and like, "Oh, you need music," posts with no music are popping off. You're like, there's no consistency in any of this stuff, and so it was hard for me to really like I was spending too much time trying to figure out how it worked. And I remember seeing a video of somebody, I forget the person's name, but they're like, the algorithm, like the whole thing about the app is it's going to push posts that the people want to see because
Mm.
it's taking info from you and what you look at and what you click on. And so it's just going to throw stuff in your face that you're more likely to click on. And so just make a post that you would be likely to click on. I'm sure that like people out there like you are going to also find it. So they're like, the algorithm only really studies you. So as long as you make a post that you like, it should do well. And if not, I mean, I kind of, because there's times where like I make a post that I would like and it still does terribly. So I'm like, I don't know. I've kind of just thrown in the towel with the algorithm and I'm like, I'm just going to put out what I put
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, I need to try that. I'm taking notes too. I'm like, okay, we're gonna try some of these things. I need a better relationship with it.
Yeah, I have not cracked the social media code. I don't have a million followers. I've had one post go viral and that was years and years ago. And so I'm like, I don't know the code of today's social media. But I
Yeah,
don't know.
getting
It's
a
just what
post
it
to
is.
go viral is like such a adrenaline rush, which is crazy, but then also such a crash when it doesn't happen again. Like I've had one post on TikTok and one on Instagram get to 1 million views. And so
Woo.
every single one that's like has the fact that it's only happened like when it happened, I was like, oh my gosh, amazing. And then when it never happened again, I was like, oh
Mm.
no.
It's over
And I'm like,
with.
oh
Dang
man.
it. So, but that was how, I mean, that was how I found your book as well, where it's like, it was like a reel that you were explaining what the book was and what the story was about. And it was like, it was coming soon. It was like, it's coming out tomorrow or something like that. And I was like, oh, cool.
Okay.
Tight. So, how was that like experiencing that like viral, uh, that viral moment and like, how did that reflect in how many people went and sought out your book and like how was that reception because you have a pretty substantial following on your social media so like how how do they feel about the book how's your like reader reception and stuff like that.
So I feel like I have figured out how to get views, but not completely how to turn views into sales, if that makes sense. So like that well, and for one, my video that went viral was before the book came out. And it was not about the book. It was about like superpowers. Like that's my video that's gotten to 1 million views.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and it was also before I got monetized, and so I was like, ah, come on, why? Uh, I got monetized, and then it was like, you made $10, and I was like,
Dang
thanks.
it.
uh, but yeah, it's weird. There's so much. We could do a whole. I could talk for 2.5 hours about social media marketing because it's like really weird and tricky. Because again, like views and sales are two different things, and like there's so many people I see who their videos aren't getting a ton of views, but they always post about their book every single day. It's only about the book. It's just pictures of the book, them talking about the book. They post literally nothing else. And even though, each video might have between 200 to 2,000 views, like they sell more because each one is like directed. I can't do the like, I don't know, to me it's weird to just every single time be like exact same pitch. And I kind of like making the videos that are a little more interesting. My hope is that by building a following that likes the videos and that are kind of interested in my ideas, that they will be interested in like, they'll be interested in this book and then like all future books, if that makes sense. Like I'm trying, people talk about like a thousand true fans. Like that's kind of what I'm hoping to build.
Mhm.
Um, but we'll see. I haven't like sold as many as I like. Okay, if one, I had 30,000 followers on Instagram when the book came out, and I did not sell like less like I was like, oh, if 1% of them buy, like that'll be like $3,000. But far less than 1% bought a book.
Mm.
But I think also part of it is you have to like a lot of people want a series to be done. And like word of mouth sells more books than social media does. And that just requires like saturation. Like you just have to be out for long enough for people to leave reviews. Like people I sent the book to when it like 6 months ago, 5 months ago, some of them are just now posting reviews or just now getting around to reading it. So it is like such a long game, unfortunately.
Mhm. Yeah, especially like with books too, and because your book is, I mean, it's not a huge book, but it's not a little book either, and so I guess it's like, I guess it takes people a minute to kind of get through them, depending on like what they have in their
Yeah.
queue and stuff like that, and how fast of a reader they are. Um, how have you done in terms of like, how much do you believe in like old tech of marketing, like going to like the newspaper or the radio or like local bookstores and stuff like that. Have you explored any of that in your area?
I haven't really. I am starting to. We did one local signing last year when the book came out. And there's a new bookstore opening where I live that's like a bookstore slash tea shop. So I'm gonna be involved in that. And I'm trying to there's a Comic-Con that happens that I'm gonna get a booth at. So I'm trying to do more local events. I'm also thinking of like so I'm in Texas. I'm not in like a huge city in Texas, but like I can drive to Houston, Dallas, Austin. So like I'm trying to go to some events there. I honestly I'm very introverted. I obviously talk a ton, but that's just because I like words. I'm very introverted. So like so these events kind of stress me out. And like the
Mm-hmm.
like cold calling people is not my favorite thing in the world. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like your marketing strategy has to have part of everything in it. So this year I'm trying to do a little bit more like, okay, events. We're gonna be there in person with a stack of books, being like, hey, you might like this.
Hmm. Yeah, I think those when you spoke about like the thousand true fans, I think that like a lot of it comes from those personal connections. Like when you meet somebody in at a show or at like an event, those people are like way more likely to stick with you and like support you in those times. I found like people that I'll meet at art shows and stuff. Like I'll post stuff out like whenever I'm trying to market something out, like I'll go in and I'll throw out these posts and people like it and comment and all that. But then it's like whenever I see somebody at a show and I meet them, I get to know who they are. And then if I put something out on socials, it's like it's that person that's like in the comments. And it's like because of the connection that we made there versus like, oh, this person's work is cool online, I'm gonna follow them versus like, oh no, we had a conversation and like I remember we were here and we did this. Like those actually help like a ton. So I think when you go to those events, like those connections that you make will probably be like ones that stick and ones like just that are just more enjoyable for you as well. Just because like every people do all kinds of stuff and you never know like who you're talking to or who these people know or like you just never know.
Yeah, that's so true.
Hmm. It's like like, and then another really cool one is like you never know who these people are going to be, and
Mhm.
there's people that I've met where I met them and they might have just been like a college student. Oh yeah, I'm at Georgia Tech. I just do my thing, whatever. And then I'm getting an email from somebody at like Coca Cola, and like, hey, like I remember you from like a couple years ago, and like I got this job over here. We're looking for such and such. And you're like, oh shoot, I didn't even realize you were like headed down that path. I think that's just so cool though. You just never know. It makes you just want to support everybody everywhere because like just never know what they got planned for themselves too.
Yeah, I think
Um,
it's a really great way to look at it. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, I have done some like lives on TikTok, and that's been kind of cool for getting to know people better because I'll see the same people each time. I'm like, oh, like there's only 10 people on here, but I remember five of you guys from last time. So like, hello again.
Whenever whenever I stopped doing the pods live, I started doing like art live. So during the comic creation, I was like streaming, like doing some of the inks and stuff for these pages, and like these people were very, very excited about the comic, and it was just a handful of people. It was probably like five people or something like that. But those people were literally like they were bugging me for a book. They're like, "Yo, where it's
Oh,
at? You said it was coming out on this day. Like I'm ready. How can I get a hold of it?" And so, yeah, it's cool just being able to like slowly build that up.
so do you have a comic book coming out?
I yes and no. You know what? I'll
Okay.
grab it real quick. I'll grab it real quick so I can show you what it looks like.
Yeah, go get it.
So it's called Retrieve. It's about a
Mhm.
rogue, and she has a debt with this witch, and she's asking the witch for a favor, and the witch is like, "Nah, you owe me too much. Like I'm not doing anything else for you." And she's like, "Well, no, like I need this. Like please, like you're the only one that can kind of help me here." And she's like, "Well, if you can retrieve this knife that got stolen from me by these creatures, then I'll consider your debt paid for." And so she's like, "Bet I'm going out there to get the knife." And a bunch of stuff happens along the way, and it's like 30 something pages, and it just got all kind of like
Cool.
stuff in it. And it was something I made for a comics expo last year. I was going out to support a homie, and everybody at the thing was gonna have a comic except for me, and I was like, mm-mm. I want one.
You're like, no, no, no.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna get left out.
That's
So
awesome.
so I made that. I did that it took me, funny enough, it took me about a month. It's funny, like just the little short
That's
story.
crazy, honestly. To me, that's insane that you wrote and drew and inked and colored a comic book in a month. That blows my mind.
It took a piece of me I don't think I'll ever get back. Like it was It was just kind of,
Okay, that makes
uh,
sense.
I was just up until like I had so many all nighters, and like I don't know, like I definitely wanted to give myself more time because even that was like it was imperfect to me, and there were times where like okay, well I wanted to include this, but I just don't have the time to. I'd rather have something finished, and so but yeah, that's like that's I mean that's Retrieve, and so I'm thinking that'll come
That's
out
cool.
like earlier in the or like sooner. But I also plan to make a couple more for the show that I have coming up, and I'd love to be able to have just a small line of comics, and like my hope is that all the stories can kind of connect with each other.
Well, okay, there's your interconnected world. It's starting.
Slowly, slowly,
Or is this
little
something
by
different?
little.
Or is this you're like, okay, this is going to be the world, or is this a different thing? And you have a different world that you're like, no, this is the world. Or do you have
I'm
several?
I there's several, but I'm trying to figure out if it can be one or like does it
Okay,
need
okay.
to can they all coexist and make sense? That's like my challenge. Or like I want to be able to just because one thing about the world that kind of stops me is like I don't want to make a world and then have to abide by all the rules because then I might have an idea for a story that doesn't fit, and I'm like, dang. But can I make something where I can make any story that I want to make and still be able to have it make sense in this realm? Like, can I have freedom, but then have it also make sense? That's what I'm trying to make. And it's like a more of a long game thing because it's like you gotta like
Yeah.
teach people that this stuff makes sense, like in this world.
Well, I mean, like, look at like I think of like Marvel. Like Marvel's got all kind of random stuff in it, and like people accept it. I feel like maybe like I don't know. I totally think you could pull that off. Like Marvel stuff is just like here's this, here's this, here's this. I think as long as you like set the expectation that like hey anything might be able to happen here. Like I don't know. I think it sounds cool. It sounds like a cool concept.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for with Retrieve and with just with the other comics that I got going on. But I don't know. We're gonna see how it works. I'm just trying to like
That's
take it
so
slow.
cool.
But
Yeah, I'm excited. That's cool.
yeah, I'll let you know like once I'm trying to figure out if I should like save it for the show, if I should like put them out because I've given a few to people, and like I put some in like a local comic store here, but there's a I don't know. I'm trying to figure out if like I might put it out and let people kind of just read it and get a feel for the comic, but it ends on a crazy cliffhanger as well.
Oh
And so
yes,
like
excellent.
people are like, "Yo, where's the second one?" And I'm like, "Bro, to be honest, it's kind of far. It's kind of far because I have other stories I'm trying to make, and like this is just where it is right now."
Well, hey, that mean they'll remember you, right? They'll be like, "Oh, I need to know what happens in this thing to this person, this rogue."
So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I definitely wanna push her story some more, but yeah, I just have a couple more in the queue before we get back to her. I'm gonna ask you a question about community first, and then I think it'd be a good point to get into the spoilers. What do you think?
Okay, sounds good.
I think community is like so huge when it comes to like a creative. I feel like two heads are better than one in a lot of senses, and especially like as creatives who are very ambitious and they're making things, they're kind of building their careers, like you want and need people to be supportive along the way. And I'm curious to know who is in your community of writers. Do you have like a circle of friends that you guys write together? You said that you have like a writers group, and like do they have books? Do they have uh things? How do they inspire you? I think that like I definitely wouldn't be the artist I am today without like a couple of really just influential and really talented artists. And I'm curious to know, who that looks like for, on your end.
So my writing group has three other women in it, and they none of them are published yet, but they are all very good. And they all kind of write slightly different things. So like one of them is she's also a hardcore fantasy person, but she is like a an anthropology background, and she like no her like knowledge of history and things is crazy, so all her stories are like very grounded in like real history. Like the magic in them is usually very small and it almost feels like historical fiction, and then there's this one crazy thing. So she's really good, and she's really
Mhm.
good at pointing out plot holes and inconsistencies. And then there's my friend Erin, who I have the YouTube channel with, of Plot and Prose
Mhm.
is our YouTube channel. And she is one of the most encouraging people I know. She's very good. Her book, she hasn't finished her book yet, but I'm like, we talk a lot about like writer's block and self doubt together, and I'm just
Mhm.
like, Aaron, you have to finish your book so I can read it. Like, please, for me. Um, and my friend Ileana is writes literary fiction, which is so different from fantasy. She's our one literary, well, like maybe not literary, but like women's fiction, contemporary. There's no magic; it's the real world,
Mhm.
and she has a really good understanding of like character and like dialogue. Her dialogue is all really snappy. So I feel like there's all these things where we like kind of like we learn from each other, and like sometimes there's things where we have different ideas, or like, one thing with writers groups is sometimes someone will be like, this is a problem and this is how I think you should fix it. And like usually they're wrong about how you should fix it, but they are right about how it's a problem. Not always, but a lot of the time, right? Because like nobody knows your story like you, but people tend to be good at identifying when something isn't working. So that's been really good. They're like my first like writer friends like I've ever made that are like know in real life. And anytime, whenever they all finish their books, I'm going to be like, everyone needs to read these. They're so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I'll definitely be on the lookout for what they have going on too. Like I'm a pretty big reader as well. Not as much as my girlfriend though. She I think she read like I think she read 30 books last year, like 31 or something. She was just like chewing through them. I'm like, sheesh. But
Yeah, that's impressive.
well yeah, I love just seeing different stories, especially if it's from people who are like self-publishing and like 'cause I feel like they're a lot more ambitious and a lot more strong in like what they're putting out versus like somebody who is really established and like and is trying to stay on brand or keep their investors happy or like trying to stay like palatable for like a wider audience. But they're like whenever you're on that front end and you're like putting out your first projects like tend to be a lot bolder and like you make stories that tend to be a lot more adventurous, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, there's definite pros to traditional publishing, but there are also definite cons.
Like
I
what?
am not opposed to one day doing like a book deal with a publishing house, but like it takes so long. And I was like, I can't wait years for this thing to come out. Like I've got to like it's done. Like I want it to be out there.
For your story, because it's a trilogy, like is there a possibility that you could that like a publisher could pick that up already, or like since you kind of started it, like you kind of finish it that way?
So the way it used to be is that people would be like, okay, if you self-publish something or you put it on the internet, like it's dead. Like nobody wants it, nobody wants to buy it. That is not true anymore. I think some I wouldn't be I don't know this for a fact, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some agents for publishing houses that literally go onto Amazon and like look at the top selling self-published books, because like there's a Wool, which was made into the Silo series on Apple TV,
Hmm.
started off as a self-published book that got bought out. The Martian was self-published, literally posted on his blog for free, and then he published it on Amazon as a book. Sword of Kaigen, which is one of my favorite books of all time, was self-published, and I don't know if that one was republished traditionally or if it was her next one that got picked up. It might be both, but like it's there's not really like rules to publishing anymore, I think, and like though I think if someone wants a traditional book deal, like if you know that that's the dream of your heart, like query, but you never know. Like there's like no longer one path to getting your book anywhere.
And does that make your job? I'm assuming that it would make it easier for you, but what do you think?
I think it makes it easier. I don't think everyone shares my opinion, but I'm like, this feels like the easiest time in the world to like be a writer to me, because again, like social media, for all its faults, is literally free. Like, if you can find a way to grab people's attention, you can get your book in front of thousands of people, maybe millions, right? If you're super good at it. Uh, and like you don't have to know somebody in New York or like ship a your manuscript to them and hope that the intern going through the massive stack of manuscripts likes your first 10 pages. Like
Mhm.
I don't know. Like there's again, there's definite pros to traditional publishing. It's not a lost cause, right? Like I think if that's someone's dream, they should pursue it. But it's just so much harder to get in. And I really feel like it helps if you're there physically, like where these publishing houses are, and if you know people. But again, I haven't pursued that. So this is just me talking about based off of stuff I've seen on the internet. But that's my perception. I think now is the easiest time ever. I think it's the easiest time ever, maybe to be any kind of creative. Like I don't know. As an artist, do you agree with that or what? Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think especially, well, it's easier if you're skilled, because if you're not skilled,
that's fair.
it's going to be hard to, like, because I think the reason why it's easier is because we can do it ourselves without the help of like a big corporation or some like group of people. And so now you're like, oh yeah, you can just like get to the top on your own way. But then like if you're not a very good climber, sometimes it's easier to kind of go up with a group of people or like go in by way of like the main path. But if the main path isn't really the way anymore, you know, you got to get your climbing skills up, and like that can be kind of rough. So if you're an adult and you want to start doing something and you don't really have an inkling for it, I feel like that's a hard climb. Like I feel for people who are like trying to get into art now, and then like you can tell that they still just have to work on like their technical skills, because it's like I know that that takes a lot of like it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of intention, and then that's just to like get your like your hand your pen right, but then it's like you also have to figure out how to like express yourself and do it in a way that connects with people, and so it's like that's tough. That's a tough road if you're not kind of halfway there already.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's yeah, if you're willing to do whatever it takes, I think you'll be good. But it's a you have to be willing to climb. Yeah,
Like I know people that will like they'll be like, yeah, I wanna, you know, I wanna do this. You know, I wanna be an animator. I wanna make my own movie, but like I don't know how to animate. And I mean, I still encourage people to do it if that's what you want to do, go for it. But it's like, dang man, that's a road. That is a road. And like, hey man, go for it if that's your dream. But like, it's a tough one though.
yeah,
But if you're like somebody who's already like going crazy in the animation sense, and like maybe you just haven't been able to find a job, and now it's like, oh, I can just make my own animation and get it out in front of the right people, and it's fine. They're gonna have a blast.
yeah. I love watching indie animations. Or just like people on YouTube, like they make stuff. I watch like the different animatics and the animations people make. I think they're so cool.
Have you seen the Tales of Elethrion?
I have not. I haven't.
Oh, those are so good.
I'm gonna write that down.
It's by Sun Creature Studio. I don't know if they're named Sun Creature anymore. I think they just changed it all to Tales of Elethrion, but it's like Aletrion. Tales of Elethrion. And it's like it's insane. It's like a couple of I think it's like 14 or 15 episodes, and it's not finished yet, but it's kind of the same thing, like where you have these different little stories, and then like you kind of just you're introduced to them by way of just like it's just one story then another, and like you don't even see the correlation, and then over time you start to see how like one storyline starts to influence another, and they're starting to kind of converge, and it's really nice to see come together. Like it's good stuff. It's by some French animators, and I feel like them French animations are just those people. Those people are like drinking a different kind of water or something. They're so good.
Okay, cool. I don't know if I've watched a ton of French animation. I don't know if I know
Ooh,
that I would know if it was French unless it was in French. Like I don't know. I'm very much a casual enjoyer.
it's uh it's kind of in the line work. I think like just from an aesthetics perspective, it's like the way that they it's like the type of frame rate they edit on or that they animate
Hmm.
on, and then like the line work. It's like, I mean, French animators have all different looking animations, but there's like a big kind of general sense. And I don't know if it's because it's like that's how they teach them in school over there, or if that's just kind of like what people tend to enjoy over there. But like there's this, I don't know, like when you see it, Tales of Elethrion is definitely in that feel. And then
Okay.
there's a YouTube channel called Gobelin, which is like Gobelin.
Oh, okay. Yes, I have seen that.
Yeah,
I
all
know.
those.
Yes. Okay.
That's a school. That's an animation school in France, and so I think that they're
Oh,
like putting
okay.
out. I don't know if that's student work or if like alumni work or what, but that's like that's a really big animation school out there, and so yeah, they're always putting out heat.
That's cool. I have seen some of their videos. I didn't know they were in. I was just like, oh, that's it. I wonder how you pronounce that username. It's
Yeah,
like,
they
oh,
they
it's French, I guess.
yeah, they crazy over there. They are, yeah, they don't play in animation. And like I don't know,
That's
I
cool.
remember hearing somebody say like the French people can't animate, and I was like, what? What are you talking? Where are you watching? Because man, it's too much. It's too much heat out there. Um,
Mhm.
there's like I can share some of the videos. Like I'll send you like some YouTube links to certain videos that I've seen from them, and it's just I go back and I'll see them maybe like once a year or so, and I just have to rewatch because they're just it's just that good, and they're little short stories, like just a couple minutes long, but they're so powerful, and they don't do a whole lot. You don't see people like fighting and doing all this like you know stuff, but it might just be somebody walking through like a garden, and they're just kind of saying little things here and there.
Yeah, I feel like that really simple storytelling that's like this is such a small moment, but it's been imbued with so much meaning is like that's like I'm like that's mastery. Like I feel like it's easier to me. It's easier to do put every cool thing I could ever think of into a book versus like no, we're gonna take this one small moment between these people or with this person in a garden and make you completely invested.
Do you read a lot of comics?
I don't read a lot of comics. Had a phase where I read a lot of Wikipedia articles about comics
Mhm.
and like watched the YouTube videos breaking down the characters because I love like the Teen Titans and like the Justice League animated series and like I used to love all the Marvel movies. So like I love superhero stuff, but I don't really read comics, though I would like to. Like I think they're so cool. Um, there's some that I've wanted. I've heard of Saga that's a really good one, but I haven't
Mhm.
read it. um, yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, I've read some webtoons, like some uh I guess they're manhwas. I've read some of those, but that's as
Mhm.
far as I've gone.
Mm. There's there's this one comic. It's by someone named Linnea Sturt, and it's called A Frog in the Fall. And it's like a wide format comic too. Like it's like a the book itself is very, what is that ratio? Like 16 by 9 or something like that. It's like that huge,
Oh,
like
yeah.
that format. And the book is designed in such a way to where like the pages lay flat. And the plot is essentially just a frog following these two toads down south because it's too cold where they are and they just want to go and see the tropics. But it's this whole journey that they go on, and like the things that they see along the way and the things they say to each other, and the little frog learns from like the bigger toads about life. And it's like it doesn't take much, that I think that's what I got from it. Is like it doesn't take much to make a story that really like connects with you. And
Hmm.
it's so good. You could probably read it in like an hour or two, but it's so powerful. There's certain pages where like the whole spread will have like one bubble of dialogue, and then like just this big scene. You're like, wow, this is crazy. Like I highly
That's
recommend
cool.
reading
Yeah. Okay, you said it's a frog in the bowl?
Frog in the Fall.
Oh, in the fall. Okay, a frog in the fall. What a
Mm-hmm.
cute name.
Yeah,
Okay, I love frogs, so that's right up my alley.
it's crazy. It's crazy.
Ow.
I I want to get into the ending of the Call of Wind? Do you think it's good for
Yes.
to speak on these things?
I think so. I think we can do that, and then it'll be bedtime for me. I
Okay.
am. I think we were talking about, you say you're kind of a night owl. I'm not, but I
Oh,
mean, not
okay.
saying we gotta cut it short, because spoilers. I like talking about my book will keep me awake for forever. But uh,
hmm
yeah, this seems like this is a good time for me to transition.
Okay. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, so just for people listening, it's time to speak on, the spoilers or just very
Hmm.
specific details on the book if you don't want. If you plan on reading The Call of Wind and you don't want to be spoiled or be let in on certain details, um you might have to fast forward to, I think it'll be good after. I think we can kind of just consider it done here, or maybe I'll make a note for myself, like I'll put a timestamp to where I can like to where they should go to. So
Skip to here to avoid spoilers, kind
yep,
of a thing.
skip to
Okay,
this
sounds good.
time here to to avoid being spoiled on The Call of Wind. I think that it's a great book. If you haven't read The Call of Wind yet, you should definitely read it for yourself. There's a lot of turns and a lot of scenes that happen, I think, that are best experienced unknowing. So yeah. But that is all the disclaimer I will give. You know, I think we've talked about it long enough, folks. Folks know. Man, that was diabolical what Ignacio did. Like the way,
Yes.
oh man, you know, it it got me because it got me personally because I have family, right? That I try to learn about the family lore. I'm the youngest of four, and I try to learn
Oh, we're
about the
opposites.
lore. Yeah, yeah, it's like there's my world and my childhood was such like a utopia. Like I didn't know nothing about nobody, none of the family dirt or anything like that. And then there's just times where like I will find out like, oh, like your uncle was actually like this, or your aunt actually did this, is why we stopped talking to these people back and blah 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 blah, because they did this. And it really, that's why I think it struck me so tight, because it felt like one of those moments where I'm like, oh shoot, like I thought you were this type of person, and then the whole time you playing like that. I had this idea that like I know for Elias, he's thinking maybe his father is, well, he thought he was like dead for a long time, and then he was like, well, maybe he's still alive. Oh, is he just an absent father? Then there was that part, and then it's like, dang, your father actually was just like he's gotten messed up by his uncle and been stuck in a room, like in a library. And I'm like, bruh. And it's just, you can have all these feelings built up about like how you feel about your dad. Like, why didn't you come, you know, into my life? How you do this, this. And then it's like you find out your dad actually did care about you. He just couldn't really get to you. He had, his mind was all tore up. And then the uncle doesn't even stick around to hear about it. He's out. And I'm like, I cannot believe you. That's crazy.
Yeah, my writing group was so mad. They were like, one of them, she was like, I hate Ignacio. And I was like, good.
Good.
He's one of my favorite characters to write. The prologue and the epilogue of The Call of Wind are like maybe my favorite chapter. Like, I just think he's such an interesting person to be like, okay, like we have him as one way. Elias knows him as this person. He seems very like he's very knowledgeable. He's helping Elias. Um, and then we see, okay, he's maybe this other way. And then the epilogue, we see how he views himself and the narrative he's telling himself. And I think I love that.
And that's how, I think that's how people that do that can kind of feel good about themselves, because they feel as if it is in sense of like it's in service to a bigger thing. It's bigger than me, it's bigger than you, it's bigger than what I'm doing. This is worth it. And it's like, I don't know if it's always worth that. I don't know if like, they say like not all money's good money, where sometimes, you can't do that stepping on the backs of the people that are closest to you. But I am interested to know like how that how that goes because I don't remember where I saw it or heard it, but I remember you saying Ignacio was like your favorite character, maybe your favorite character to write. And I'm like, I wonder why that is. Like, why is it because you get to kind of like explore like the dark side of like his character and stuff, or
Yeah, I think the reason one of the reasons he's my favorite character to write is that he is like his view is so twisted, basically. Like it's almost easier to get into his mindset to write or like to be like, okay, we're gonna pretend this because it's so like wrong in such a specific way. Like he's not going to view himself as the villain. He thinks he thinks he's the hero in his mind, right?
mm,
Like I think you kind of can see that in the epilogue a little bit. Like he's like, "Oh, I had to do this. They don't understand. Like I can't believe they didn't understand. Like don't they like I don't have a choice. I have to do this."
mm,
And I think it's just like yeah, it's just such a specific mindset. And I also think it's like I don't know, I like characters that think they're the hero and aren't because I feel like it can be like a good thing to reflect on because like I don't know, I think many people can if they're truly honest with themselves think back on their lives and be like okay in this moment I thought I was like I was focused on me and maybe I've hurt these people this way and we rationalize these things to ourselves and sometimes we never realize that we've been rationalizing, but it's good to think, okay, am I rationalizing? Or maybe am I in the wrong? And Ignacio has not been able to reach that level of self-awareness.
mm. Because then it made me feel. So was it like I don't know if this is something that like you want the reader to be trying to like meditate on, but it makes me wonder because I don't know enough about Antonio to know because he's like, oh, like he messed it up. He we had this mission and you didn't follow through, and so I had to do this. So I didn't know if it was Ignacio trying to like just be very diligent and like yeah, like this job called for like for for a tough decision and like you just didn't have the guts to do it. And sometimes that can be the right thing to do sometimes. But I didn't know if like Antonio was like, no, this isn't right, and he tried to stop it, or if it was like, no, I just don't want to do it, even though it's the right thing to do, and he had to stop it. And it was like it made me really wonder if like Ignacio was uh like was he just in his beliefs or was it like nah he's just doing some bad stuff and don't want to answer for it.
Yeah, I think it's complicated. I think we'll learn more about what happened between them in book two. Some more of that is going to come out, and one day, like I said, I'll write the prequel, which will be about Ignacio and Antonio and kind of showing their relationship. Like that's I think that would be a really fun thing to write. But yeah, I want it to not be totally clear because like it's not clear to Elias. Elias has no idea, and Ignacio obviously has his interpretation of events where he's like, Antonio, it's Antonio's fault. Antonio has his own interpretation of events. It's and we'll see as
Mm,
the series goes on. You'll learn more about okay, who do I think is right here?
that's interesting. And I don't I mean I was gonna ask about the source of life calling but I don't know if that would be like I kind of want to find that out like I kind of just want to find that out in through reading but like what
Yeah, I don't
emotion.
know if I'm gonna explicitly state the emotion in the book or if it'll come out. I haven't decided.
Mm,
If it did, it might be a book three thing.
mm-hmm.
Um, so ask me again when the series is done, and we can talk
Okay.
about it because I don't want to spoil you on
Yeah.
anything.
For sure. Because it might even be cool to just leave it unanswered forever. And then like that's just like the ultimate question and people will just fight about it all day long. Like, no, it's this, it's this, it's this. Cause especially because it's like that's the only one that that wasn't answered for it. So it's like, It makes you think like because then I'm sitting there looking at Mark and I'm like, well, what does he think about whatever life call like whenever he's calling? And I'm like, well, trying to think of like
I
what
will say
emotions he has.
there's clues I would say. I think it's some of the description of how of Mark getting ready to life call. I think there's some things you can draw from some of them. Um, but I'll leave it at that.
Mm,
I'm hoping it'll be the kind of thing that if you find out, you're like, oh, okay, that makes
mm,
sense.
mm.
Um,
And then do you have an in like a a visual reference for one of the coolest things I was thinking of was the stone collar necklaces. And I'm like, man,
oh,
I was like thinking about how that would look and like I had some ideas, but I was wondering if you were thinking about a particular piece of jewelry when you were thinking of that, or was it just like just cool stones?
I really wasn't. I okay, so for because I said I like to draw for fun, I mostly draw like people, and so I have a pretty clear idea of like what my characters look like, and even when describing Ashira, sometimes when I would get stuck on descriptions, I'll like sketch things out of like, okay, here's the grove, here's what the robes look like, so I have some idea about what the clothes are, but objects are not something that I think about or like draw a ton. So the stone collar necklaces, I have no idea. Maybe one day I'll come up with what they look like, but right now it's just like
That
it's a cool
mm,
looking necklace.
interesting. That might be like that's something that might be something that like I would try to interpret that I would try to like draw out and see because like
Hmm.
I'm thinking about like I saw on your website that you had like a in it like a signed copy of the Cold Wind. I think it'd be so cool to have it be like some super special edition where you get like a stone collar necklace. I think that would be so lit.
Ooh,
Like I was thought
that
that
would be awesome.
especially because like it could
That's
be
such a
like
good idea.
it could be a like a reminder to like what you were saying earlier of like leaning into that sense of determination or knowing when to be stubborn on a specific topic, and it can be like that I don't know, just like a little subtle reminder for like stone caller fans or just fans of determination or stubbornness.
Ooh, now I'm thinking like, man, it would be cool to have a different object for each of them. Like if you're like if there's a special edition, it's like okay, you keep the stone collar necklace, you could get maybe like a I don't know, something plant related.
Mm-hmm.
A plant necklace, I don't know, some kind of it'd be cool to have something to represent each of them.
Or like the
Um
little
I
pouch,
want yeah, they could have the little
the
yeah, a little
pouch with the
bag for
seeds,
the
like with the
wow, you're
acorns and the
so good at
seed.
this.
That joint would be
I was
fire.
like, I can't think of anything. That would be cool. That would be cool. Okay. I want to, once the series is done, do like a Kickstarter and like do something really special and like some really cool like hire I really love my cover art. I think my cover artist is awesome. I would love
It's
to hire
tight.
more artists and like do some awesome art. But yeah, this is giving me ideas. I would just love to do something really cool. I love stuff like that in books and like the little things that you get, the merch.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so cool.
Yeah, I mean
I'll have to pick your brain whenever I get to that point.
oh, please do. I love like figuring stuff out like that. Because I do a lot of like shows and I've just seen people like make all kinds of things that tie back into like their story, and always thinking about ways that you can bring more of your ideas into like the tangible space. And I think about these things all the time. Like I like thinking about like, oh, Mark just desperately needs this freaking stone collar necklace. I'm like, and I can see like the freaking wall and then like a dude back there, and you just see like the little glint of like, oh, it's red, and
Ooh,
like you just see it like shining in the light. Like that's the kind of stuff that'll like play in my
that's
head as I
so
was reading it.
good.
And I'm like, dang, that would be clean. Like I want a stone collar necklace now. Now I gotta see it, you know? So
Okay,
yeah.
that I love that. That's such a good image. I'm like, oh, this is like I'm like I wonder how many artists make great writers because that's like a that was a beautiful description. I'm like, yes, I see
Man,
it.
that's exactly how I saw like as I was reading it, or like even having an edition of the Call of Wind that signifies like that time period where they were fighting. Like having it could be something where it's like the necklace and then like the pouch and then maybe like blood splattered, like just little stuff here, like kind of just a mix of like stone and like plants and like the corresponding gear could be like really really cool. Like that's I just couldn't stop thinking about those things, like whenever they killed the first stone caller, and it's like, or even like the ice people. the whenever they were out
Yes,
there and
I
they,
love them.
oh man, like that was
Yes.
clean. Like
Where
being
they
able to,
freeze it and yes.
yeah, and I'm like, dog, like there was so much to just play with visually in there. And I'm like, ah, like I don't know. I definitely wanted to like run that by you just to see what you thought of it and like what are you thinking about whenever you're writing these things?
Yeah, I think I have a pretty like I hadn't thought about the necklaces, but I think I have a decently strong imagination for like a mind's eye for a lot of the other stuff, like especially the battle scenes. I would love, okay, if I could have an animation of anything in the book, I want it to be them riding the trees. Like I want to see that, or like if anything was like in a movie, like I like the trees and like the people fighting in the trees and the roots moving. Like I really love that, and
Hmm.
I would love to see that happen. That and the wind calling. I really like wind calling. I think it's fun. I think it's just maybe it's like those like the super dynamic character that's like, they're flipping around, they're climbing stuff. I like that a lot too.
Hmm. Made me think about like Aang, just like styling over
Yes.
stuff. And that brings me to another thing that I wanted to ask about too. There was whenever Elias had to open the door, was that a nod to when
Oh,
Aang was in the temple and he had to open the doors with the wind?
yes, it literally was.
Dang, that was lit.
I'm glad, but also like, oh no, like because I was like, I need there to be something to do to like for one, there were multiple things that scene needed to do. It needed to like reaffirm the relationship between Ignacio and Elias before Ignacio messes it up, and it needed to like be a moment for Elias to use his wind calling and like succeed. And it had to be a way for them to get in the room, and like a reason that Ignacio hadn't like, why is Elias there? Like if Ignacio could just walk into this room by himself, like
Mm,
I don't know, it like that's kind of a plot hole. So you cannot get into the room without a wind caller. This also makes sense that if you know Ignacio and Antonio have some kind of falling out,
but he
Ignacio was
couldn't get
unable to
in.
complete the mission. And I was like,
Mm.
I can't think of anything. I have no idea. And I was just like, what if it's just the door from the last airbender? Or like basically that, but more complicated.
It
Yeah,
works.
so I think it's so funny that you noticed that.
Yeah, because I was like, it really made me think about like at that temple, and I was like, oh dang, like you just need. It was like you need a wind caller, and I just heard Aang like, yeah, you just open it with airbending, like of course. And it's just cool to like see that parallel. It's a nice nod. Like it doesn't feel like it's like biting or copying. It's like no,
Okay,
it just
good.
feels like a good nod to it. Like for those that know, because if you don't know about about the last Airbender, like it doesn't feel like anything like that. And as a big fan of The Last Airbender, it's like it just feels like a nice, not like from a fan. It's cool.
Yeah, I love the Last Airbender. I think is such a solid show. It's one of my favorites. It's so good, and like I love that it's like children can watch it, but like it's treated as seriously as adult shows. And the world is so incredible, and the magic is incredible, and the characters. It's so good. Definitely a huge inspiration for me.
That's very close to perfection. Like that's like a 99.9% for me. Like I mean, there's very little that could be improved on that show. Like that one just
Yeah,
in
yeah.
particular.
It's so good.
And then you said that you're a big fan of anime. I heard that you watched Vinland Saga. What are some other and what are your top 5 or your top 3?
Ooh, top five. Okay, Vinland Saga is definitely in the top because I love the character arc that they have Thorfinn go on, which
Mhm.
I'm not going to spoil, but I just think it's so good. And I also love the history stuff of it. Like it's fun. Like I'm not a huge history nerd, but I am a little bit, and I watch it with my husband who is a huge history nerd. And so like as they're going, we'd be like, oh look, it's the Welsh, like it's those people. Like it's cool. I really like Full Metal Alchemist. I think that's a really solid show.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say, okay, so there's Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I think
Brotherhood.
Full Metal Alchemist, the original, does a
Mm.
better job of one character, and I don't remember his name. Is it Scar? Is
Yeah,
he the
yeah,
guy
yeah,
with
yeah.
the?
Like the yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
I think he is handled better in Full Metal Alchemist, and I
Mm.
really like the opening of Full Metal Alchemist. But Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is a better show because the ending of that show is so much better than the
Mm.
ending of the first show. where I read that like the manga wasn't done, so they just kind of made something up, and you can tell. But yeah, that's such a good show. The relationship between those brothers is really good. The magic in that is really good. I think the world is so good. I also really like Demon Slayer. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Demon Slayer, I don't think the writing in Demon Slayer is as peak as Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood or Vinland Saga, but the art in it is so amazing, and I could just watch those fights over and over again.
Yeah,
Like I saw the movie and I made a video about it, and I was like, it was so good. And some of my comments was like, it was really repetitive, and I was like, I didn't care. I loved it.
it's tough. Yeah.
So that might be top three. I also like Freerun, which I'm watching right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
my husband and I just started season two. Oh, okay. If it's five, so it's those three, Freerun.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe fifth one might be Dororo. Have you watched Dororo?
What's that?
Okay, Dororo is really
Dororo.
cool. It is uh I think it's from a period of Japanese history that I think it's the Warring States period, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like this period in Japanese history where it's like a bunch of tiny little states and like groups of people fighting over each other, tons of war. And the concept of it is that the father, who's like the chief of one of these areas, or like the king or whatever, his people were suffering so much that he took his firstborn son to the demons and was like, or no, he goes to the demons and he's like, I'll give you anything if you can protect my lands. And what they take is the son's name is Hakimaru, and they take his like his eyes, his face, his skin, his all his senses. And so he's like he has like no way of communicating with the world, and he has no arms and legs. Obviously he gets prosthetics, and also his prosthetics are swords, which are cool. But it's
Ooh.
such a good show because it's really like it's like a really it's in some ways a really sad show, but it's like it's about Hakimaru and like him growing up, and it's all in the first episode. Like his family doesn't keep him, so he grows up from this with this random peasant guy. Um, but it's really good in like his character development, and then also exploring like is one person's life and happiness worth the the safety of this little nation, this group of people? Like, is that a fair trade? Like, is it right for Hakimaru to want to get his body parts back, or is it wrong? And I think
Mm.
it's just interesting, and it's got some really good characters and some really good like historical fantasy feeling.
Mm. Yeah, I have to definitely have to check that out. Where do you like watch that on like Crunchyroll or Netflix or something?
Yeah, I think it's on Crunchyroll.
Okay, I'm gonna check that out. Yeah. Now, if
What
I
are what
have
are your top? What's oh, go ahead. I was gonna ask you your top five, but go ahead and then tell me your top five.
okay, I'll do the top five first because I was just gonna suggest you some, and
Oh, okay.
my number one anime, I would it's more of the manga than the anime, but Naruto. Naruto is just I literally grew up with Naruto, and it was not necessarily my introduction into anime, but it was the first one that really stuck and like made me a big fan. And so that one I read the manga probably every other year, just from the beginning all
Oh
the way
wow,
through. It's
that's
just
crazy. Isn't that super long?
it is. It's like 700
That's
chapters, but
crazy.
yeah, it's a big inspiration in terms of like the draftsmanship too, and the character design, the way like fight choreography. uh I mean, in Retrieve there's a lot of nods to like Kishimoto's paneling and the way that he communicates like motion blur and clashing and stuff, and it's just I could go on and on. Naruto is like, that's a good one. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I have not seen
Yes.
the first Full Metal Alchemist, because I heard from like early on they were like, just watch Brotherhood, it's the better one. That's what I heard from people. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just watch that, and that was like hands down, just oh man.
Yeah, I think if you only want to watch one, watch Brotherhood. I have seen both of them. I saw the older one first, but Brotherhood does most things better.
Another good one. It's not like I'm not going in order for real, but
Oh yeah, that's fine.
um Ranking of Kings is very, very good.
Okay,
Have you seen that one?
yes, I started it with my husband because we watch a lot. Okay, we watch a lot of anime together, and I like to watch it with him because if I watch it by myself, I often won't finish it because for no good reason. It wasn't his thing. It was my thing though. I haven't gone. So he tapped out, but I haven't gone back and finished it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the art in that is really good too.
Mm-hmm. And I like the
I forgot about that. I need to finish it.
Yeah, it's short. It's very short, but it's very, very good, and it has some very lovable characters, and it's got just like it's got a good plot. Like I don't want to really speak too much on it. I'd rather you just like watch it and see for yourself, but it's really good. Definitely check that out. Then Attack on Titan is
Okay, yes, yes. I forgot about Attack on Titan because again, I haven't finished the last season, which I
oh
know it's been out for a while, but I have a really bad habit of quitting things before they end, and I haven't quit it. I just forgot about it. I got distracted by other things. But yes, Attack on Titan is incredible.
Definitely should finish that. That's one of the few animes where like every season was better than the last, in my opinion. Like there's some where it's like, oh, this season was good, this
Mm.
season wasn't, this one was all right, but the first season was a bit no. It just went all the way up until it finished. So like definitely definitely check that out. That is really good. And I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's a very, very good one. Have you looked at Dungeon Meshi?
Yes,
Delicious in
I
Dungeon?
have. Yes, I've watched a lot of these. Yes, because again, my
So
husband
good.
loves cooking, and so we were like, we have to watch this. It's a cooking anime, and as it goes on, we're like, this is a lot more than a cooking anime.
It gets to like they start cooking, they were cooking for fun, and now they're like cooking for necessity and like survival, and it's stuff gets crazy. And I don't know how much you've like looked into the artist of Dungeon Meshi, but like her character design is like it's crazy. The way that she builds her world, the way
Mm.
that she establishes like different fantastical races, the way that she goes so in depth with certain characters. There's a book that she has out called Daydream Hour, and it's essentially like a collection of her like sketches as she was like developing the story and developing the characters. She goes into such niche places where it's like the have you seen like the first season of Dungeon Meshi on Netflix?
Yeah, I think I'm completely caught up with what's on Netflix.
So then like that cat, the cat Itsutsumi, that character,
Yes, yes,
the,
yes.
there's like a page where she's ranking, like it's Itsusumi ranking how it feels to cuddle next to other characters while they sleep. And it's like a raise like this comfortable, this warm, this, nice or whatever. Or like there's some characters where like she's got their makeup routine. Like it's this person's makeup
Mm,
routine. It's like you don't have to go that
that's
hard, but you're
crazy.
doing that. And it's so fun to look at the niche moments of all these different characters and just to know just information that you don't really have to know but you're enjoying it anyway. And man, she's really got that character design on lock, just in terms of just establishing the archetypes, establishing like she gives each character enough individuality in terms of like the characteristics, but then like there's certain things that like their race, this is just what these things do, this is how they are, they tend to be shorter, they tend to have like rounder noses, or they tend to like this type of weather, they tend to like this or that, but then they also have these individual quirks about themselves. And I think it's so cool. You can see like a random character and you could see like, oh, it's this type of person, and they're probably a fighter based on what they're wearing, or they have this or that. And it's like, yeah, definitely check those out. Like they're so good.
That's okay. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
And I'm trying to think of, I know I gave you what, four anime. I'm trying to think of like one more. I'm a big fan of I'm a big fan of One Piece, just because I've been reading it and I'm enjoying it, but it's not something where like, oh, you gotta read One Piece, and like I don't know.
Yeah, one of my friends loves it, and he's seen all both the shows, and he has all the books, but it's so long. I'm like, I'm so intimidated. I
Yeah,
can't.
it's good. Like you kind of don't think about how long the anime is or like the manga is as you're like reading and watching it. But I don't know, like it can get repetitive. It can like see the the flaws in the anime. And so like if you're into that kind of thing, it's cool. But I don't think it's so like, oh, this is so great. I think everybody should watch this like the other ones. But
Mm.
definitely Naruto I think is really good. Ranking of Kings, Attack on Titan, Full Metal Alchemist. Those are like that's like my happy place with anime for sure. Like oh, and Mob Psycho. Mob Psycho.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
That one is good. I like it. The plot is essentially a kid who is a psychic and he starts working under this guy who runs like a the people who come in like well what is that? Like exorcise demons out of people's houses and stuff like that.
Oh
And
yeah,
like
Exorcist.
yeah, so this kid who's a psychic, he can kind of see spirits and ghosts and things, and he goes and starts working for this guy who runs this exorcism company, and they get into all kind of shenanigans and like it's really cool how they portray psychics as well as like spirits and ghosts, and it's a lot of fun. It's funny. It's got good fights. It's got good action. It's like colorful. It's really really good. Very well animated. Highly recommend that one.
Okay, cool. We
Hmm.
my husband and I liked One Punch Man, but there's a new season of that out,
Hmm.
and the animation quality of it has completely tanked.
Oh,
And we're like, well, and I'm like, man, it's such a thing like anime and like other types of medium like that. It's like, yeah, the stories and like the story is probably the most, maybe still is the most important, but also if it's an, I don't know if it, like they both have to be really good. Like it all has to be good. Like the voice, not just they both, but like the acting has to be good too. And I'm like, man, projects like that where it's like for TV or movies, I'm like, everything has to be on point or like
you
you
kind of
lose
lose
people.
it.
I don't know.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
because you can have really good anime and then like the voice acting is weird.
Yeah.
And so like you kind of it kind of takes up the veil of like immersion. It's like, oh, this is silly now. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird, but I don't know. It's pretty tough. I think that's why the manga I think is a better I don't know, if you just want to get the story in, I think the manga is really, really good for that. And then I just like to go and
Mm.
like watch the fights and stuff on YouTube or like or on Crunchyroll. But the manga's usually really, really good because it has to like that's usually a lot of times where they prove themselves or like where they get greenlit to make an anime is because the comic was so good. So a lot of times you'll see these artists like pour their heart and soul into these mangas and and it shows whenever you're going to look at it. Mm.
That makes sense.
There's so many places that we went to in this conversation.
Yes.
Are you what do you think that there's anything that like we missed out on through all this?
I don't think so. I feel like un- unless there was more stuff you wanted to say about the book, I'm pretty content. I don't really have anything that I think I'm like, oh, we must get to this. I'm like, I
Hmm.
feel like we got to it.
Okay.
And
Well,
now I've got
cool.
some anime recs and another
Yes.
reminder to finish Attack on Titan.
Yes. Please do.
I
Let me know what you
I
think of
don't know
those
why
as
I did
well.
it. I told one of my friends, I was like, oh, I watched everything except the last season. And he was like, what are you
You
doing? I was like,
messing
I don't
up.
know, man. I don't know.
Ooh. It's like you ran like the layup and like it never got dunked. You just gotta go back and dunk it. Get the point.
Yeah, I know.
um well cool. Well, we have a closing tradition on this podcast. Closing tradition is because it's the Vertex, it is the point of connection. And I want to invite each guest to be able to start a connection with any person, place, or thing that exists out in the world. And my hope is that as the community grows and as like the viewers grow and stuff like that, that these connections can get made a lot easier. So just inviting you now to just reach out to anything that you would like to connect with.
Like just any person. I feel like
So it can be
I've seen this. I saw this. Okay,
no, so it could be like
I
any
because
it can be
I
any
watched other
company.
episodes.
Yeah, it could be any company, it could be any person, whether it's like an old high
Okay,
school teacher, if it's like if you want to do something for Coca-Cola, for Disney, for NASA, for Beyonce, for
if
anything.
we're shooting for the stars, this not a star as high as Beyonce, I guess, but I would say Brandon Sanderson
Oh
because he
shoot.
is just such he his okay, he is not my favorite author, but he is like kind of my favorite in the way that like in like his holistic thing. Like you can tell he really loves his stories. They're good stories. He is fantastic at like both the craft and the business side of being an author. And I feel like if I had 30 minutes to talk to Brandon Sanderson, like I would learn so much. Like he's
Mm,
like I know his books are really good. I just said he's not my top author, like there are some books that I like more than his books, but his books are up there. Like they're so good, and the thing is, they're consistently really good. Like,
mm,
and there's literally so many of them. He has nailed how he tells his stories, and I just am like, he's got a lot of podcasts. He's also seems like a really nice guy. I don't know,
mm.
like he teaches a class on writing at this college, and they put the entire thing on YouTube for free, like
Oh
several
wow.
years in a row. And like he just really wants to seems like he wants to help other writers and storytellers, so
Mm,
that would be who I would want to connect to.
mm. Interesting. Hmm. I've 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 heard the praises of Brandon Sanderson. My girlfriend has read a bunch of his books. Um, I have not read any of his books yet, but I heard that they are top shelf. They're top tier fantasy. That's like real
They
fantasy if
are
you're
there's
into that.
oh they're intense. I would say okay, Stormlight is being made into a TV show. They're super long, they're very epic in scope. But I think over Stormlight, the one that I would be like, yes, is Mistborn. And Mistborn is like the other, like I love Stormlight a lot too, but Mistborn is feels tighter. A
Mm,
specific there's two like eras in the same world, but I like the first one. And I think the magic in it is really, really cool and like makes sense. And you can like visually imagine it really well. The characters are really good. The plot I think is really good. And it's shorter than Stormlight. It's three
mm,
books, but each book is smaller than a Stormlight book. Um, and they're also going to be made into movies, so
mm,
I guess you can also
mm.
wait for the movie. But those are really good books.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard of the
But also,
Mistborn
your
series.
girlfriend would have a good rec for you because I feel like different people like different Sanderson books. So like she would be able to be like, yes, this is the one.
She's told me about the Mistborn series too. She's a big fan
Okay,
of those
okay,
as well. So it's like I
they're
keep
very good.
hearing when I hear Sanderson, I hear Mistborn, and I'm like, all right, all right, fine, fine. I'll give it a
They're
try.
like I read the first book years and years and years ago that I found it at the library as a kid and they didn't have any of the rest and then I forgot about it. And when I was dating my husband, he was like, "You should read these books." And I was like, "Ah, don't tell me what to do." And then I
Yeah,
started reading them and I was like, "Yo, these books are so good." And he was like,
I'll try to tell you.
"I tried to tell you. I tried to tell you."
That's cool. That's cool. I'm gonna definitely have to check those out then. And yeah, hopefully one day the podcast can connect you and Mr. Sanderson together. I think that'd be crazy conversation.
That would be insane.
I'll be
Yes.
lit. Oh, cool. Well, shoot. Thank you so much for this conversation. I think that this was a treat, to be honest. It's very rare that I finish a book that I really enjoy and I get to converse with the author about all the different hypotheticals and the feelings and thoughts that I get from it, and just as well as like your knowledge on like world building and then just living in this life as a creative in the 2020s. It's been so great getting to just know you and to know your craft and know the story a bit more. This has been everything. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. As the author, right, you said how often do you get to talk to an author about a book you've just read? Like as an author just starting out, like how often do I get someone who's read it be like, "Hey, let's talk about it for like 3 hours." Like that's awesome. Like so I've really enjoyed this and I again, thank you so much for reaching out to me and for giving me this opportunity. Like it was so easy to say yes. Like this was so fun.
Mm, well, good. Yeah, it's like I really think that your stories have the same bones and the same edge that like these really big and popular franchises have. Like I because I've read these series as well. Like I know the kind of feeling and the kind of world that they exist in, and like I feel like yours just slots right in perfectly. I think that it's just a matter of like it's just a matter of people learning about the story, but it's not the story. The story has great bones. It has legs. I mean, it's really really good. Like I hope that you keep going all the way till it's done.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's really encouraging to hear. I yeah, part of me is like, just wait till you see my next series. Like that'll be a
Oh
different level.
shoot,
But I yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that.
absolutely. And then I have one more question for you. Who do you think would be a good podcast guest in the future?
Ooh, okay. A good podcast guest in the future. I'm gonna try to see if I can think of another writer. Um, okay, she's probably too big. ML Wong would be awesome. If Brandon
ML1.
Sanderson wasn't my point of connection for this, I would have said her because her book, The Sword of Kagan, is so good. I never cry when reading, or hardly ever, and her book made me cry twice. That's what I always tell people. It's Sword of
Mm,
Kagan, so good.
hmm.
But she's pretty big now, so I don't know. I mean, you could. I say you reach out and read her book.
I'm gonna
It's
send
good.
it.
Other people that I think are really interesting people. There's this guy I follow on Instagram who's a writer. His name is Maurice Affridge. Um, and he has a science fantasy book that's like kind of Star Warsy that I'm reading. And he's really good at the pitching and the marketing of the book. Like he's crazy good at like selling the book. I've watched all the interviews I can find with him. I watch them because I'm like, this guy knows how to do this, and he's really big on like community and interacting with his people, his fans. So I would be curious to see a conversation between you and him. I think,
Mm, okay. Yeah. And it was
and he
Maurice.
is
What was his
not
last
as
name?
Maurice. His last name is Africh, and his book is Cello's Gate, which is cello like a musical instrument.
Cello's Gate. That's an interesting name. Cello's Gate.
It is
All
an
right.
interesting name. I'm curious. Like I'm halfway through the book, so I'm like, where is this? What is this cello?
Mm.
I'm like ready for it to be like but it is very like we're in space. There's like lightsaber type things. There's like, very Star Wars, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Hmm. Yeah, I'll definitely check that. That sounds like right up my alley. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much once again. And yeah, yeah, I'm gonna let you get to it. I know that we're probably well into bedtime at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it is worth it. It's okay.
Okay.
It's
Cool.
only 9 o'clock here, so I have like, and maybe like I go to bed at like 10, so we're
Okay.
good. But
Okay, so you're right on time.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, again, I really appreciate this opportunity. This was like, seriously, thank you. This was good. And again,
Absolutely.
it's just crazy that you like my book for real. I'm still
Man,
like, oh my
joint
gosh,
is
I can't get
lit.
over that.
The book is lit. I have it on literally on the Kindle. I've been telling my lady about it. Hopefully she'll read it soon. I want other people to read it. I mean, I think it's really good. Like you did a good job with that one, and like I'm hyped for book two. Like I really am. I'm like I'll be one of them ones. Like whenever it comes out, like you're gonna see. One purchase will be for me. So cool. And then like
Thank you.
also too, if you I mean, I know that like we had this conversation and stuff, but if you have any other like just questions or if you're not necessarily like with the writing or the story or anything, but like if you just have like, hey, I just have this idea or something like that, like feel free. The gate is open now if you reaching out with anything creative or anything that you're trying to like figure out or I know that you were talking about when we were talking about like the necklaces and stuff like that. If you have any more ideas that you're wanting to run my way, like the gate is open. Like it doesn't have to end with the podcast or anything.
Okay, awesome. The same to you. Like, if you're like, okay, this world, like, does this make sense?
Hmm.
I love talking about that kind of stuff, obviously. So yeah,
Bet,
feel free
bet.
to feel free to reach out whenever.
Oh shoot, that actually I might take you up on that quicker than you may think because I'm writing like the plots of these comics that I'm making and like I'd love to be able to see like what you think of these because they're short so like I want them to still be punchy enough and engaging enough for people to like get something out of this little comic but I'd be curious to know what you think about these so I might send you some stuff.
Yeah, go for it.
Ooh. Well, cool. I guess that's all we got.
All right. That's all we got. Thanks again. I guess I'll talk to you later.
Alrighty, we'll catch you later. See you.
Bye.
Thank you so much for watching the episode. One of my favorite things about doing this podcast is hearing about when someone resonates with something we said. It's truly the reason I continue to make these happen. Comment down below what stuck with you, and we can continue the discussion further. Also consider liking and subscribing. It helps me bring in more amazing creatives and helps me make this show better for you all every episode. Catch y'all next week.